They might want you to cover the costs of younger people who do use all that data. If you're not using the data, you're probably being used. We've heard time and time again that some big wireless customers get stuck paying hundreds and even thousands more for years and years because they think it's hard to switch. Not with us. It takes just about 20 minutes and you can change your plan anytime without extra charges. We use the same towers as the big guys, so you'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Our plans start at just $20 a month. And for a limited time, switch and get your second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com or a store near you and get your second month free today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional details.
Is your child tackling new challenges in math this year? Working hard to get ahead of the pack? Here's the good news. There's a secret weapon. Mathnasium, the authority on math education. With over 1,000 learning centers worldwide, we know what it takes to build real confidence in math. Here's what sets us apart. Expert instructors who teach each student individually. No cookie-cutter approach. No rushing through lessons. We create customized learning plans designed specifically for your child's needs, helping them achieve their academic goals, not just this semester, but all year long. Whether they're struggling to catch up or ready to excel, our proven methods work. Kids leave Mathnasium stronger in math, more confident in the classroom, and ready to handle whatever comes next. Visit Mathnasium today and discover why parents trust us with their child's math education. Mathnasium, where kids love math.
Hey, it's Scott Tucker and my new co-host,
Amy Jacobson,
on AM 560. We wanted you to know that we have a special show every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. here on AM 560, The Answer. It is Retirement Dakota with Scott Tucker and
Amy Jacobson.
It's every Sunday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. 2-hour show, 2-hour radio extravaganza. Amy, we're going to tantalize the listening public and the listening private with all kinds of retirement planning information. So tune in at AM 560 Sunday mornings at 7 a.m.
Are you 65 or older and dealing with chronic knee or shoulder pain? You're not alone. At the Joint Relief Institute, we've helped thousands find real relief without surgery. Our non-surgical, FDA-approved treatment uses hyaluronic gel that acts like a cushion between the bones in your knee. As we age, the cushion naturally wears down, causing painful grinding and popping. But our gel restores that cushion, allowing your knee to move smoothly again. Ready to stop the pain and get back to doing what you love? Call the Joint Relief Institute at 708-315-6800. Again, that's 708-315-6800.
Move better, live better with JRI.
Move better and live better with JRI. Contact the Joint Relief Institute today and get back to doing what you love. Call 708-315-6800 or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oakbrook, and Orland Park. Call 708-315-6800. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted. Reclaim your mobility with the Joint Relief Institute.
Mike Gallagher sees it get political very quickly.
We've got a mile worth of receipts of Democrats demanding that Trump do what he did. Chuck Schumer rips Donald Trump for ending the Maduro regime after he previously ripped him for not ending the Maduro regime. You can't make this crap up.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9 on AM 560. The Answer.
It's January 16th, and this is your Fox Daily Snapshot. It's National Fig Newton Day.
A proper gentleman eats one cookie at a time.
But these aren't cookies. They're Newtons.
The sweet treat has been enjoyed by millions for more than a century, ever since Philadelphia baker Charles Roser invented and patented the machine which could insert sweet fig paste into soft pastry dough. Roser would eventually sell his recipe to the company that would become Nabisco. One Fig Newton note: the cookies are named after the town in Massachusetts and not for the physicist Isaac Newton. Also on this date, in 1919, the 18th Amendment, also known as Prohibition, which banned the sale of alcohol, is ratified by Congress. And author Peter Benchley's terrifying shark attack story, Jaws, was published in 1974. If it's your birthday today, you share it with the man who invented the Zamboni, Frank Zamboni, born in 1901, and supermodel Kate Moss, born in 1974. I'm Tushar Saxena, and that's your Fox Daily Snapshot.
You need to be tuning into the Retirement Success Blueprint with Michael Stewart, the radio companion to the Amazon best-selling book, Success Blueprint, How to Build the Retirement You Deserve. Each week, Michael shares strategies designed to help reduce market risk through income-generating investments that can provide steady returns. Because if you can avoid a big loss, you don't need to take big risks. Catch the Retirement Success Blueprint with Michael Stewart, Saturday mornings at 10, right here on AM 560 The Answer.
Too often, cremated remains are kept at home, then forgotten. At Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Hillside, we have your cremation options. Come visit our new cremation garden, see our beautiful granite columbariums, or view our elegant indoor glass front niches. These offer sacred, lasting ways to honor your loved one. If cremation is your choice, our memorialization is a forever option. Give them the dignity of a permanent resting place where they'll be remembered for generations. Visit us today, CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org.
If moving safely around your home is a concern, you deserve clear answers, not a sales pitch. Access will help you improve home accessibility with practical solutions like lifts, grab bars, and home modifications, designed to fit your home, your needs, and budget. Experienced professionals will take the time to explain your options so you can make an informed decision. If staying safe and comfortable in your home matters to you, start with a free in-home consultation. Call Access at 630-616-6249 or visit allaboutaccess.com.
As a local business owner, you get called every week by marketing companies. We get it. We have hundreds of satisfied customers. Here's what a satisfied client recently said.
Open enrollment is going great. We're hitting record numbers. Thank you so much for this report. It really is amazing to see how the marketing is really shaping our enrollment around the city.
Salem Surround. Is your business hard to find online? Meet with a digital marketer today for ideas that will make your business stand out. Visit salemsurround.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Ask yourself this question. Is it really worth holding on to that timeshare that you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-682-3311. That's 800-682-3311. 800-682-3311.
The following is a paid political announcement.
Stay tuned for a special message from Angel Dad Joe Abraham about his daughter Katie.
Put yourself in my shoes. I just spent my first Christmas without Katie. My daughter was murdered by an illegal immigrant Governor Pritzker protected. Imagine her final breaths, knowing that you would have given your life for hers, but you didn't have the chance. Put your child in Katie's shoes. Think of the unfulfilled dreams, the unrealized joys, and the permanent loss. I'm not a political guy, but when politicians unleash violent criminals, we all need to get involved. We can do better, and we must do better. Ted Dabrowski would have protected Katie, and he'll protect your children the way I wish someone had protected mine.
I'm Ted Dabrowski, and I approve this message.
Dan Proft here to tell you about our 2025 Food for the Poor campaign. If you've listened to this station and to our show for any length of time, then you already know about Food for the Poor. They are a nonprofit, faith-based organization that provides food, water, medicine, clothing, and life-saving supplies directly to local partners in Latin America and the Caribbean. We all know about how bad the situation is in Latin America and the Caribbean right now. Economic decline, political instability and corruption, and high food prices. The only thing standing between these families and starvation is Food for the Poor and their partners who are providing life-saving food relief on the ground. But in order to get food and water to those who need it most, Food for the Poor needs your help. Your gift of just $150 can provide food and water for 2 children for an entire year. For a gift of $300, you can provide food and water for 4 children for an entire year. To make a gift of any amount, just call 844-862-4673. That's 844-862-4673. Or visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor. And if you are a small business owner or you make the marketing or advertising decisions for a business, then you need to become a business benefactor. Just make a $2,500 tax-deductible donation to Food for the Poor. And AM 560 will give you 40 one-minute commercials to air here on AM 560 The Answer between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Friday at no additional cost to you. Lock in your 2026 marketing now at this incredible price. It really is the best deal in all of Chicago radio. You'll join a long list of businesses who are reaching AM 560's audience of affluent decision makers. And through the generosity of your business, you'll also be helping more than 30 children for a year. To take advantage of this deal, just call John Gallagher at 847-472-8950. Again, 847-472-8950. That number, one more time, 847-472-8950. Or go to 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor. That website again, 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor. Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Robert Anderson, president of McLaughlin Body Company in the Quad Cities, and a customer of Signature Bank. When our 100-year-old family-owned manufacturing company was looking for a new bank, we found an excellent partner with Signature Bank. Signature Bank understands the challenges with manufacturing in today's highly competitive environment. We recently participated in the New Markets Tax Credit Program and were fortunate to have the experts at Signature Bank help us navigate the complexities of this program. With Signature Bank's support, we were able to expand not only our facility, but ultimately our business. If you're looking for a trusted banking partner for your business, look to Chicago's own Signature Bank.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, doctors Economos, Gave Alice, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidiscipline practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930, 630-830-4930, or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
Hey, it's Mike Gallagher, hoping you'll join me on the unforgettable Gulf of America cruise happening in November of 2026. Imagine this: turquoise waters, white sand beaches, incredible food, insightful conversations about the future of America. Scott Jennings and I will be your hosts. We'll dive into the issues shaping America as we cruise through some of the most stunning destinations while honoring the 250th anniversary of our nation. Book your cabin today. Text the word cruise to 94878. Text cruise to 94878 or visit MikeOnline.com.
Trish Regan provides the analysis you need each day on the Trish Regan podcast.
The Democrats getting so desperate, first of all, had the quote-unquote seditious six with their video saying, oh, don't follow illegal orders. It was just kind of a weird thing to do, right? Because it's not like the president has done anything illegal, but they're trying to effectively sow chaos.
Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com. An informed and educated citizenry is the only guarantee to preserve our constitutional republic. And each week, you'll hear from experts, not pundits, and find out what's really happening, from local issues to national politics. Listen to The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. There's no topic of public policy concern that she won't talk about. Stop the lies. Learn the truth. Join the conversation. Sunday night at 7, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
82 million Americans rely on AM radio for news, sports, talk, and emergency alerts. But unless Congress acts now, AM could disappear from new cars. Tell lawmakers AM radio matters to you. Text AM to 39179 and urge Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act before it's too late.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Now, your official weather forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be cloudy and not as cold with a chance of light snow, accumulating between a coating to an inch. Later, there may be a leftover snow shower. It'll be breezy in the afternoon with a storm total snowfall expected to reach 1 to 3 inches. Travel may be slow and slippery in the morning, but conditions are expected to improve in the afternoon. The high temperature will reach 37 degrees. I'm meteorologist Jason Catarina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. BLM Brandon, he's the mayor of the city of Chicago. He does this deal with WBEZ, state-run media, where he'll come in routinely and, in addition to responding to canned questions from the NPR functionary, he'll take calls from Chicago residents who punish themselves by listening to WBEZ. And I just want to also extend the offer here. I mean, I'm happy to have Mayor Johnson come here, BLM Brandon, and allow the listeners to this program, and we can limit it to the city of Chicago, to ask questions. Because, maybe he'll get some more pointed questions. We can dispense with the sophistry of why are you so great and the cheap identity politics. But I do have to say there was a question that was asked of him recently in a recent appearance from Bill from Canaryville that I thought was very substantive, very good. Maybe he knew. Maybe Bill from Canaryville is a secret Chicago's Morning Answer listener, but he used the opportunity to move over to NPR to get an opportunity to press Brandon Johnson on a couple of things. Property taxes, that's a hot topic. And downtown development, that's another hot topic. And this is how that went.
And we're going to jump to the phones and hear from Bill in Canaryville. Hi, Bill. What's your question?
Hi, Mayor. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Good. I'm great. I'm going off your west side is the best side. I know you're born and bred on the west side, and that's awesome. Just like to ask you about why would your majority-appointed school board raise property taxes on these people, especially like the East and West Garfield Park areas have gone up from 100 to 135%. That's just crazy. And then also going on your downtown and revitalizing, we hear from the treasurer that a lot of these tax bills are because the downtown area is not paying taxes because the buildings are empty.
Yeah, thanks for that question. First of all, the treasurer that's not a very complete answer. The development that's coming across our commercial corridor, is moving at a pace that I believe is setting us up to continue to have a strong, diverse economy. Right. To suggest that somehow the reason why, local homeowners are paying more is because that there's just vacancy, then in that case, then there's been vacancy in the city of Chicago downtown for some time. This is really about an unfair tax structure that over relies upon property taxes as its only means to generate revenue. And that's why I've consistently called for, whether it's the corporate head tax or, whether it's the millionaire's tax, which there seems to be some momentum in Springfield to do that. As far as the board of education, I believe there were 15 members who voted for that. In fact, that increase has happened every year, I believe, since about 2016. Look, here's what my honest presentation is. I did not raise property taxes in my budget because I just believe that the ultra rich and large corporations have to do more in this moment. right? We have to make those investments in our public education system. We have to make investments in our parks and our libraries. I know there were some folks who were not pleased with the fact that there was a slight property tax increase for our libraries as well. And look, it's not it's not my focus in terms of how we generate revenue. And so what I would need from you, Frank, from Canaryville, is to call on your local state reps and state senators who represent that particular community to challenge these millionaires to put more skin in the game. And then I believe we won't have to have this over-reliance upon property tax.
312-642-5600 is how you give us a call or a text on that. You can't talk to Brandon Johnson directly like Bill from Canaryville did on the NPR affiliate, but we can talk about it. 312-642-5600 is the call or text line. A couple things there. One, I love the two-step that he does on property tax increases, which goes back to at least Richard M., which is, I didn't raise property taxes. The school board over there raised taxes. Who's in charge of the school board? Oh, that's an independent government agency, right, with my appointees going back, it was always appointees, my appointees and my friends, the CECTU, filling in the other seats with those they wanted elected. So, yeah. Pawn it off on the schools like the mayor's not in charge of the schools. The mayor's in charge of the schools when he wants to say something about CPS and school policy, and then he's hands off when it comes to things that are uncomfortable, like raising property taxes. Oh, they've done it every year since 2016, so he says. So that means we should continue doing it. If something's been done for a decade, well, then obviously you keep doing it. You don't worry about what the impacts, results, benefits, costs are. It's just so telling. And then the downtown development. There have always been vacancies downtown. Yeah, no, that's true. But it's the aggregate percentage of the vacancies that's different right now and coming out of COVID and being exacerbated by the policy choices made both at the state and the city level here. The flight that's occurring that you may have noticed, but I obviously can't comment on because that doesn't redound well to you. So, it just was fun to listen to him riff on that, particularly when you have, his people, so he says, on the west and south sides getting particularly hammered with the triennial reassessment this go-around. The other thing I thought was telling, the treasurer, Maria Pappas, talking about the lack of downtown development, the vacancy rate, so less property taxes coming in from the city center, and it's got to be picked up somewhere because we're all in this together. And she's not telling the whole story. Okay, well, then fill in the blanks. He just says she's not telling the whole story. What is the whole story, sir? But the whole story for him is what you heard in terms of his solution. The ultra-rich have to pay their fair share because we have to write blank checks to every unit of government that is important to Brandon Johnson and his people, which his people are not people based on race. His people are people based on affiliation, and that's the government unions. Chris, Dan Ryan, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, Dan. Hey, listen, in regards to the downtown development, I walk from LaSalle Street Station to my work, and if you've been down there lately, you notice that almost 90% of the business is gone, literally gone. I mean, just gone. And his only solution is to tax the rich and the ultra-rich and to do the head tax. If this is the only two options this clown has, we really have to really think about this guy's major thought in the next 10 years. With the rest of whoever gets hired or gets elected after him. He's just this one-page person that you flip back and forth, and it's the same verbiage on each page. I don't really know what else can be done down here because the tax rate down here is so bad. But honestly, we unelect this guy and we elect another clown just like him. So it's a circular situation. You know what I mean, Dan?
I do. Thanks for the call, Chris. I do know what you mean. Yeah, we need a new mentality, not just a new program, or not just a new name. You know, the names change and the policies don't. Policy direction, certainly. So there's the rub. I mean, I've said this for many, many moons, right? This waiting for Godot. Someone is going to come in from the outside and save us from ourselves. No, we need a bit of a attitude adjustment in terms of what we think about the role of government and the policy choices that have been made, a little bit of an assessment of the damage that's been done, and many people entering the fray that want to chart a completely different course, that want to change the paradigm in Chicago and Illinois. And I don't know. I don't know that is in the offing. But things can change quickly, for good or for bad. I think we learned that during the Obama regime, didn't we? That change is value neutral, good change or bad change. George in Naperville.
Yes, Dan, good morning. Brandon's always telling us how he's doing the work. We hear that work all the time, and now he's telling a caller into a radio show that he has to work.
That's right, George. Text from 312. What he's actually saying is it's been going on for a long time, so if you try to blame me, you're racist. Yes. No, I know. This mainly is Richard Nixon's fault. I think that's been clearly established. The one thing he did mention, though, that I do want to support, making investments in people, that whole riff. But one institution I do want to support. And he mentioned libraries. There was a little bit of an increase in property taxes to support those wonderful libraries that double as homeless shelters. But I digress. I learned from no less a Chicago great, Harry Carey, about the importance of libraries. Now, I'm a Sox fan, but I still grew up watching the Cubs. And Harry Carey taught me a lot of things. And one of them was about the importance of libraries.
You know, of all the places that you meet good-looking and interesting women, the libraries, they say, this is supposed to be a matter of fact, the libraries are number one on the list.
Well, it's surprising you say that, Harry, because on the off days, Arnie Harris and I frequently go to the various libraries around the major cities that we visit. She was at the library.
We met her at the library yesterday, didn't we?
And if you recall that great moment in broadcasting, Arnie Harris pans to, a good-looking woman in the stands there at Wrigley. But so, let's not be hasty when it comes to thinking about our spend on libraries, please. Josh in Braidwood.
Hey, good morning, Dan. How are you doing?
Good.
So I was calling this morning. I really like your topic that you're starting off with. And last night I saw on Chicago News that the CPD is going to cut arts and music from their curriculum due to lack of funding. And
you mean CPS? You mean CPS?
CPS. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yes,
CPS.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. CPS is cutting arts
curious.
and music, right? Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm just wondering how you feel about that. I think it's a terrible idea. I think that arts and music is another avenue for our kids to get out of the city and move on with their lives. I think it's terrible. I mean, if you're going to take arts and music away, why don't we take away football and basketball?
Yeah.
I think it's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, Josh. Thanks for the call. It is crazy that you're spending upwards of $30,000 per child per year in CPS, which is significantly more than virtually all of the government school systems in, say, suburban Chicagoland. And you have to cut arts and music programs. Can't afford those. Mm-hmm. After the $50 billion and 3 cent contract, not quite, but that's what she wanted, Stacey Davis Gates, that was inked last year, right? But it's all about the kids. Josh? Sure it is. All right, let's check the headlines back at 5:50.
Good morning. It is 26 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. 3 former DePaul University basketball players are among those charged in an NCAA basketball rigging scheme. According to the indictment, the DePaul players were offered bribes ranging from $10,000 to $30,000 per game in exchange for shaving points off of those games. In a statement, DePaul University athletics officials say they're disappointed that their former athletes from the school were involved, noting that the school has a, quote, long-standing commitment to educating our athletics community about the dangers and consequences of sports gambling. One person is dead after a car collided with a school bus southwest of Chicago in Manhattan yesterday. According to reports, the school bus driver and the students on board were taken to a local hospital to be evaluated and were later released. The driver of the car passed away at the scene. This report is a service of Peoples Gas Energy Efficiency Program. The Peoples Gas Energy Efficiency Program provides energy-saving tips and rebates to help keep the warmth and savings in this winter. Visit peoplesgasdelivery.com/rebates because the warmest things in your house are the things that make home feel like home.
Alex Marlow explains his mission.
We're not going to play games here. We're not just going to court clicks. We're not just going to court shares. I'm going to give you the news. The news is what you're going to get in the show, and a deep analysis from great guests. What I'm trying to do here is try to save the country as best I can for my 4 children. I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this because I believe in America.
The Alex Marlow Show, weekdays at 11, right before Scott Jennings at noon on AM 560. The Answer.
Ross Shaw talks about building income in retirement.
You know, you can actually structure it in a way to have that $4,000 a month coming in the door every single month. So you don't have to look at the stock ticker and say, oh, the stock market's up today, stock market's down. You still got that $4,000 a month, and having that opportunity to take the vacations and do all the fun things in retirement that you always dream to do.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Mike Lindell has a passion to help people get the best sleep of their life. He started by creating the best pillow ever, and right now he is passing the best prices to you when you use promo code LIBERTY. They want to thank you for your continued support by passing on some Christmas specials to our listeners. Get wholesale pricing on the classic My Pillows for $17.98. Transform any mattress with a My Mattress topper and save up to $100. Get a set of Giza sheets for as low as $29.98 or the 6-pack towel set for only $39.98. To get the best specials ever, go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. These offers won't last long, so call 800-489-0201 or go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY. Rest easy remembering that MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty. Call today, 800-489-0201, promo code LIBERTY.
The following is a paid political announcement.
This is Kevin Coyne, chairman of the DuPage County GOP. I am inviting you to our Lincoln Day dinner on Friday, February 27th at Abington Banquets in Glen Ellen. We will feature keynote speaker and national political commentator Tudor Dixon. Enjoy an evening of camaraderie, great food, and Republican unity. Sponsorship packages are available. Purchase tickets today at DuPageGOP.com. Paid for by DuPage County Republican Central Committee.
Hair Volume from New Nordic will make your hair look thick and healthy. Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Now, your official weather forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be mostly cloudy with temperatures reaching a high of 37. There will be some light snow accumulating between a coating and an inch, followed by a leftover snow shower. It'll be breezy in the afternoon. The total snowfall from the storm is expected to be between 1 to 3 inches. Travel may be slow and slippery in the morning, but conditions will improve in the afternoon. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft. I want to stick on this topic. Brandon Johnson's comments on economic development, a larger discussion of economic vitality in the city of Chicago. Let's talk about hot dog carts, food carts. But first, Mark in Oak Lawn, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. Great show as usual. When does Chicago become Detroit? And how did they get away with, the teachers union pension being $132 billion in the hole and paying $3 billion of interest every year, and they just keep denying it. And it's almost like they're just crooks, just covering stuff up and cooking the books. And you know what they have to do? Brandon Johnson never talks about bringing jobs to Chicago. He doesn't know how to do that. He doesn't know how to work it in the business community. He's basically a community organizer.
Thanks for the call, Mark. Yeah, I mean, it's, the inside guys. Inside versus outside. That's what it's been for a long time. Cheat the government before it cheats you. That's what a kleptocracy is. That's what we have. And, it doesn't serve people who play by the rules very well, both in the middle, and that's what you see happening in all these big cities, don't you? The cities get hollowed out. I've said this many times, but I'll repeat. The uber wealthy, insulated from terrible public policy. The beneficiaries of transfer payments, effectively insulated from terrible public policy. And the middle gets squeezed from both ends. The middle play by the rules, the traditional rules of civilization, gets squeezed and squeezed out. That's what's happened. That's why San Francisco has the greatest income disparity, the greatest income inequality contained in a major city in this country is San Francisco. The temple of progressivism, like all these big cities are, including Chicago. And how's it going? Not just for the people who play by the rules of the middle that are getting squeezed out or have to leave for the suburbs at minimum, because certainly you can't send your kid to a school in Chicago unless it's named Hope Academy or St. Ignatius or some other expensive Catholic or private school. And then at the Striver strata, the Strivers in Chicago. It's a good piece by Austin Berg, who's an interesting cat. He takes up a lot of good topics. This is one. He's over at Illinois Policy Institute. Takes up the cause of the street cart vendors. And he speaks about how difficult it is to open a hot dog stand or a food cart. The thing that propelled Mike North to fame. He writes, the 2015 ordinance created in the city created a new license for food cart vendors called the Mobile Prepared Food Vendor License. But in its design, the city shut out virtually all food cart vendors that Chicagoans see on the streets today. The license does not allow for food handling of any kind on a cart. Food may not be prepared on or in a food cart. And the city interprets preparing food to mean an action as small as placing a hot dog on a bun. That's prep. That's one reason Chicagoans don't see Chicago-style hot dog carts that other cities actually feature. Even dispensing coffee from an urn counts as quote-unquote preparing, and thus cannot happen on a cart. This prevents scores of vendors from the city from getting a license, for example. City rules also don't allow for carts with a propane tank, which bans vendors from using slick new carts like the Tamalero, which is legal in Los Angeles. I guess that's some sort of tamale cart. I don't know. Yeah, it is. This is another hurdle for tamale vendors and hot dog vendors alike in Chicago. Abraham and Maria Celio were able to pour thousands of dollars into designing and fabricating their custom tamale carts with direct input from city regulators, and critically can prepare their tamales in the licensed commercial kitchen in their own brick-and-mortar restaurant, but they are the exceptions. Chicago's tamale hot dog vendors, daunted by paperwork, the process, overly restrictive rules, so they remain unlicensed. New York City, by comparison, 7,000 licensed mobile food vendors, and planning on adding another 2,200 licenses each year for the next 5. Point here is it's like little things that are indicative of big things. I say again, the biggest lie that the left tells is we are our brother's keepers, that they are our brother's keepers, that what they're doing is advancing a culture in which everybody is encouraged, incentivized to be their brother's keeper, and it's just the opposite. The culture is use the government as a sword or a shield. A sword to do violence to your competitors or people you don't like. A shield to protect yourself from competition. That's how it actually works. That's what this is all about, in large measure. Brick and mortar restaurants that don't want the competition. And so you've got grassroots level entrepreneurs, if you will, who want to take a productive risk, who want to put in the work to build a business. And this is a small example, but small examples are indicative of big cultural dynamics. And Austin reminds us something else, another example in this business sector. In 1963, a 23-year-old returning from the Marines purchased a 6-foot by 12-foot trailer for $1,100 to start the doghouse in Villa Park. The trailer had no bathroom and relied on running 250 feet of garden hose from a nearby building for running water. I'm sure you know that story if you've been in Chicago for any time. The man who started that business in 1963 after returning from the Marines in Villa Park is named Dick Portillo, who's now a billionaire. One of the incredible entrepreneurial stories that incubated out of Chicagoland when we were a much more friendly place for people who wanted to build a business and take a risk, take a productive risk. I mean, the Dick Portillo story is almost a unicorn because just the idea of going from that to $1 billion in that industry in one lifetime is just incredible. But good for him. It can happen. But the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois make success stories like that, or even success stories, but not at that galactic level, make it more and more difficult. But they're their brother's keeper. They're looking out for you. That's one of the most frustrating things. This transcends race and all of these other veneers that the political class tries to put over issues, all these other distractions and misdirection plays to try to get us at each other's throats, even as they invoke their commitment to small businesses. The great job creators are small businesses. Even as they were protecting you from federal law enforcement. Protecting me from federal law enforcement so I can be a dependent of the city and the state. That's their offer. In 1893, a little bit more history from Austin Berg, and I love the fact that he folded in the history here, because it reminds us that it doesn't have to be the way that it is today, because it wasn't once. In 1893, Austrian-Hungarian immigrants Emil Reichel and Sam Ladany introduced their all-beef sausage at the World's Fair. The success of their small hot dog stand at the Austrian Village exhibit led to their first storefront a year later. The business would go on to become Vienna Beef. Perhaps you've heard of it. The foundation of the Chicago-style hot dog. As Austin concludes, these stories show how today's food cart regulations are killing tomorrow's titans of Chicago's culinary community. City leaders ought to change them. Even if you don't become a titan of Chicago's culinary community, you become a productive person, a person adding value in the culinary community and the larger community. So why would you inhibit, forestall, prevent people from pursuing those productive ends? Hot dog vendor. I mean, it's like Leonard Reed's I Pencil essay. You know, think about it at this granular level. Now scale that. Because that is how things don't work in the city that supposedly works. Greg in Jefferson Park.
Hey, good morning, Dan. You know, it kills me that one of the things that he's talking about is we need to tax the big corporations. Let's go through the list. Microsoft, Miller Brewing, Google, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, all got all kinds of TIF money. Those four companies, I think, total over $100 million in taxpayer financing. You know, in addition to that, if you include the states, I remember reading an article, Amazon got over $1 billion in incentives to put these warehouses and distribution centers, you know, throughout the state, Joliet, what have you. And I guess the thing what I'm saying is, you know, they sit here whining and moaning about the rich and the big corporations, the big evil corporations. Then they turn around and give people with, you know, $1 trillion in their cash account, $20 million in taxpayers' money. And, you know, the next guys who are probably going to get some, if anything good happens in the near future, is the Bears, you know, going to Arlington Heights. You know, I got no problem with if they've got to obviously put new metro stations in over there and enlarge the roads and all that. The municipalities footing the bill for that. But to give them, you know, they want almost $1 billion in subsidies for a billionaire who employs nothing but multimillionaires. It never ends. And the little guy, you can't open a hot dog cart because of the 400 pages of regulation. It's just, it never ceases to amaze me. Have a good one, bud.
Thanks for the call, Greg. Text from 312, if you take away licensing, we would be flooded with illegals selling whatever on the street. Can you imagine the poor schnook who runs a brick and mortar with rent, insurance, property taxes? Well, number one, we didn't say licensure. Didn't say eliminate licensure, did we? Said eliminate the licensure that is set up to prevent people from handling food, so much as putting hot dog in a bun. That is confiscatory regulation designed as, presented falsely as protecting the public. No, I don't think the government should be in the business of putting its finger on the scale for one kind of business versus another kind of business in the same sector or across sectors. No. And flooded with illegals, why do we have to be a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state? We don't. Why do we have to be flooded with illegals? That's a choice that we make. So no, those are straw man arguments. Selling whatever on the street. The other thing is that starts from the faulty premise, and it's amazing so many people on the center right do. The government is the great protector. The government has a greater interest than selling whatever on the street. What does that mean? Oh, you're afraid that they're going to be unsanitary and people get sick? Let me tell you something. The food cart vendor, the restaurateur, has a much greater incentive to not making their customers sick than do bureaucrats at the Department of Public Health in the city of Chicago or the state. I love this. This is the Ambrose Spears, the magic in the mind when the vices of the private citizen magically turn into virtue when they become a government commissar or an elected official. Our betters. Right, because the record is clear. They are so much more competent than these individuals in the private sector. They're so much more concerned, so much more attentive than the business owner who is subject to a bottom line, who has to make his ends meet every day, every month, every quarter, every year. Could you please, this is what I'm talking about, could you please break your government-centric mentality, especially on the center right, when you otherwise know better, in terms of who you think is best positioned to serve, who you think actually is aligned with your interests, who you think really is your brother's keeper. Because it's not Big Brother, I'll tell you that. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
What if 2026 could be the best year ever for your retirement? It can when you take control of your financial future with physical precious metals. Call Advantage Gold at 800-741-GOLD right now and get your free gold rollover kit valued at $49, yours just for calling. More Americans than ever are discovering the power of rolling over a portion of their IRA or 401k into physical gold and silver. With a simple, tax and penalty-free rollover, you can add stability, security, and strength to your retirement. In times of inflation, uncertainty, or market swings, gold has been a steady, tangible, proven store of value. And in 2026, it could be the key to building the retirement you've always imagined. That's why so many people trust Advantage Gold, the #1 rated gold IRA company in America for 10 years running. Call 800-741-GOLD to get your free gold rollover kit. Call 800-741-GOLD and let 2026 be the year you finally take control. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-741-GOLD.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, ETHOS, ethos.com/Mike.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Anthony and John here from Bionic Auto Parts, proud clients of Signature Bank. We deliver high-quality, recycled and remanufactured auto parts to Chicago and Milwaukee. Our mission is simple: provide parts safely, reliably, with great customer satisfaction.
We process over 350 vehicles a month. With big banks, everything took forever. Layers of approvals and endless delays. At Signature Bank, one call got it done. Whether it's lending, deposits, or treasury management, they deliver fast. Signature Bank made us feel like family. That's a partnership we deeply appreciate.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature Bank at 773-467-5600 or visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up next hour, bottom of the hour, 6:36, we're going to talk to HealthInsuranceMentors.com founder C. Stephen Tucker about Trump's rollout of the Great Healthcare Plan. Big, beautiful bill, great health care plan. Pretty straightforward. But at the top of the 6 o'clock hour, BLM Brandon, since we've been talking about him a little bit this morning already, is moved by the moral clarity of Jacob Fry, his colleague there in Mogadishu, Minnesota. We'll give the latest on the state of play on the ground with the prospect of the president invoking the Insurrection Act at 6:06. It is now 6 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
The anti-ICE protests rage on. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News in Minneapolis again last night. Outside an immigration detention center following 2 recent ICE-involved shootings.
Protesters were seen bashing into the fence outside of the federal facility last night. Some were seen scaling the fence. Protesters and agitators were demonstrating against law enforcement for most of the day yesterday, leading up to a tense night. A group of patriots also showed up to counter-protest at the federal building yesterday, which led to some clashes.
Fox's Matt Finn in Minneapolis. President Trump's threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act and send federal troops to Minneapolis. He also plans to cut off federal funding to sanctuary states and communities. And here's another one in California.
The San Jose City Council voting unanimously to ban Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents from using the parking areas of 75 community centers and libraries and 11 city garages and lots as staging or operational bases. The policy also calls for signs stating these locations are off limits for immigration enforcement operations.
That's Fox's Kristen Goodwin. The U.S. is sending an aircraft carrier to the Middle East after the president threatened to take action in Iran over a deadly crackdown on protests. Fox's Jessica Rosenthal reports.
U.S. Ambassador to the UN Michael Waltz said President Trump stands with the Iranian people and that all options remain on the table.
The regime is solely responsible for the economic misery of the Iranian people and the repression of their freedom, and they will be held accountable.
President Trump met at the White House in private with Venezuela's opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, who gifted him the Nobel Peace Prize she was awarded last month. Fox's Rachel Campos Duffy talked to Machado.
In spite of the Nobel Prize Committee saying that you couldn't transfer your Nobel Prize to anyone, especially President Trump, you did today. Why did you do that? Because he deserves it.
America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 26 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Meyer distilled water is being recalled. According to a notice posted on the Food and Drug Administration's website, Meyer is recalling 1-gallon plastic containers of the Meyer steamed distilled water that have been sold at Meyer stores throughout the state, including here in Chicago. The affected jugs have a Best Buy date of October 4th of 2026 and a product ID code of 472859. Officials say the affected jugs of water contain an unknown black substance that's floating in the water. If you have any of these bottles of water, you're encouraged to bring them back to the store for a refund or replacement. A Chicago man has been sentenced to 17 years in federal prison for his role in 2 carjackings. Prosecutors say 35-year-old Edmund Singleton and 2 co-defendants committed the crimes in 2 different Southside neighborhoods back in November of 2022. A jury convicted Singleton and 27-year-old Ramon Bradley, both of Chicago, on carjacking and firearm offenses last year. And Indiana Governor Mike Braun says the Chicago Bears noticed that the Hoosier State is open for business. During his State of the State address Wednesday at the Capitol, Braun said his administration is working hard to bring the Bears to Indiana and encourage state lawmakers to help make it happen. National Football League Commissioner Roger Goodell visited potential stadium sites in Northwest Indiana as well as Arlington Heights last weekend. And speaking of the Bears, if you were lucky enough to score tickets to this weekend's playoff game between the Bears and Rams, you're going to want to bundle up. Forecasters say the temperature at kickoff will be a chilly 10 degrees, making it one of the coldest playoff games in Bears history. Kickoff is set for 5:30 Sunday afternoon. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again, not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Scott Jennings isn't impressed with the United Nations.
As well as thanking China and Russia for their support for holding of this meeting.
Okay, so Somalia is running a meeting. Colombia is thanking Russia and China for their support. This is the United Nations Security Council. You couldn't make this up. You couldn't make one of those Mad Libs this crazy if you tried.
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at noon, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, ETHOS, ethos.com/Mike.
Hey folks, many of us grew up on these high sugar cereals, Frosty Flakes, even Raisin Bran. You need to make the healthier switch to Grainberry, created by my dear friend Peter Harris and his father. It is lower in sugar. It's made with natural fiber, antioxidants, whole grain onyx sorghum, and that helps slow sugar absorption. Now the taste will win you over, and you can pick up Grainberry Bran Flakes or any of their other great flavors. Make the switch. Grainberry, the official cereal of the Sean Hannity Show.
Rick Borick talks about the emotions of stock market investing.
At what point would you rethink your decision that you're invested in the stock market? And you'll notice that someone who answered that question 6 months ago saying, I'm not going to panic until it's down 30%, calls you up on the phone and says, it's down 8, what's going on? And I says, what happened to the 30% guy, right?
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Don't risk losing the news, sports, and weather that AM radio delivers. When SAL and internet service fail, AM is your lifeline. With time running out, your voice matters. Text AM to 39179 and tell Congress vote yes on the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act to keep AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Good morning. We're moving well on the Eden, 14 minutes inbound and outbound between Lake Cook and Montrose. The Kennedy is also light, 8 minutes in and out from Montrose to the Byrne Interchange. On the Eisenhower, you're at 14 minutes inbound and outbound between Wolf Road and the Old Post Office. The Stevenson runs 24 minutes inbound, 22 outbound from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. And the Dan Ryan is 14 minutes inbound. Outbound is 11 between 95th and the Byrne Interchange, but watch out for slow traffic on the express lanes inbound between 33rd Street and the Stevenson. Also a little bit slow on both the inbound Bishop Ford and I-57 as you head towards the Dan Ryan. This report is the service of the AM 560 Advantage. Membership has its privileges, including early access to event tickets, exclusive contest opportunities, and special members-only content. Join today at 560theanswer.com/join. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be mostly cloudy with temperatures reaching a high of 37. There will be some light snow accumulating between a coating and an inch, followed by a leftover snow shower. It'll be breezy in the afternoon. The total snowfall from the storm is expected to be between 1 to 3 inches. Travel may be slow and slippery in the morning, but conditions will improve in the afternoon. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. President Trump posting yesterday, if the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act. I think he meant to invoke, but okay. Which many presidents have done before me, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state. Thank you for your attention to this matter. of course, his sign off. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Do you think that it's to that level now where a threat like that needs to be made, much less consummated? Or is this a matter that ICE and ostensibly local law enforcement can handle? Yes, there are professional protesters that are instigating rioting and vandalism and violence, but it's sort of uneven across Mogadishu, Minnesota, and it's not something that rises to the level of, say, the 92 L.A. riots where George H.W. Bush invoked the Insurrection Act to restore order in that city. 312-642-5600 if you want to give us a call or shoot us a text on the topic. Wall Street Journal opined on this. Events in Minnesota are so far nowhere near the standard for riots and destruction that would justify such a move. Unironically, the Wall Street Journal editorial board offers this line. In Minneapolis, the protests are largely peaceful, mostly peaceful, marred by some individual acts of obstruction or violence against ICE agents. These can be met with arrests and prosecutions, case by case, with ICE and other agents, which ICE and other agents seem capable of handling. Because triggering the Insurrection Act, they argue, could incite more protests, might cause more voters to wonder why the country is so unhappy in the second Trump term. It surely would motivate more Democrats to vote in November unless there is a broad threat to public safety that law enforcement can handle. Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that's a little dismissive of what's happening on the ground in Minnesota and what is likely to happen based on the permissiveness of authorities there when it comes to rioters. And I'm not just talking about Soy Boys, Walls, and Fry. I'm also talking about, the Hennepin County prosecutor, Moriarty? She has no interest in prosecuting vandals. She's already proven that when she turned out people that had vandalized a half a dozen other people's, when a guy who had vandalized half a dozen other people's Teslas because, Doge, so that was legitimate. She didn't want to prosecute him. They're not prosecuting these people. They're aligned. As I think our friend George from Naperville coined the phrase that I have now adopted as my own, they only enforce what they endorse, which is a great line. Yeah, I think it's quite a cavalier attitude from the Wall Street Journal editorial board and those that would poo-poo Trump's invocation of the Insurrection Act, just the threat of it at this point. Especially when you have Jacob Fry, the mayor of Mogadishu, Minnesota, formerly Minneapolis, with his police chief standing next to him, Brian O'Hara, say something like this.
And we're in a position right now where we have residents that are asking the very limited number of police officers that we have to fight ICE agents on the street, to stand by their neighbors. We cannot be at a place right now in America where we have two governmental entities that are literally fighting one another.
It was interesting when he issued that statement with O'Hara, this police chief standing next to him. The camera pans to O'Hara, or at least somebody did. You see his eyebrows raise. Two units of government at war with one another. And this is consistent with what Walls has said as well, calling this an occupation, war. Residents asking Minneapolis or Mogadishu police to go to battle with ICE agents? What are you talking about? We cannot be at a place. Who is insinuating us to that place? Pajamas boy. We cannot be at a place where two units of government are battling each other. What does that mean? Your police department, Jake, is going to do battle with ICE? Is that what you're saying? Because if you weren't saying that, one would say, look, Minnesota police, Minneapolis police will continue to do what they do to maintain law and order. And we're not going to, we're not going to aid ICE, but we're also not going to impede them. You know, those sorts of statements, particularly if he gives an order to act on them in any direction. Now we have a mayor who wants to be arrested and prosecuted, and should be. It's statements like that and the implications of those statements that has the president threatening the Insurrection Act. When he is hearing from his top people like Tom Homan that what you're getting on the ground in Minnesota is going to lead to more violence. More people are going to be hurt or worse. Tom Homan said it last night on Ingram's show. And this is while the federal government is pursuing the parties in the shadows that are financing this rioting. It's not protesting. That's not the issue. You can chant and you can screech at ICE all you want. What we're really talking about is underwriting rioting. And this is what Tom Homan said about that.
And we're going to get the bad people out. And as far as the organization, everybody that's planning these protests, giving these people weapons and funding this, again, justice is coming because we're deep diving that whole thing.
Tony, Downers Grove, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, Dan. Well, rinse and repeat. What the hell kind of Marx Brothers Groundhog Day movie are we living in? Let me get this straight. The governor and the mayor use incendiary rhetoric and then say they want peace. You have Democrats trying to impeach Kristi Noem. You have every single Democrat talking about it's unjust or whatever adjective you want to use. And Trump's not supposed to say, hey, we need to take care of this. I quite don't understand what world we're living in here. It's not a joke. They want this, and I say give it to them. I don't care about the midterms. It's not going to hurt the midterms. It might help.
Thanks for the call, Tony. Yeah, and just a little bit more color. I mean, Kash Patel on the FBI's investigation of people, like those that rioted after a ICE officer shot a Venezuelan illegal in the leg while he was being attacked by that Venezuelan illegal he was trying to apprehend. And then a couple of people rush out from an apartment building and join in attacking the officer. In response to that, assault and battery of an officer, maybe worse. You had people riot, vandalize, and destroy FBI and maybe ICE vehicles as well, break into these cars, ransack them, obtain law enforcement documents, steal a high-powered rifle and ammunition. And I'm sorry, what did Brian O'Hara's police force do about it? The individual that stole that high-powered rifle from an FBI vehicle, he was arrested. Thanks in part to independent journalists like Nick Sorter, who got video of what happened, so somebody could be identified. Some of the people could be identified. And federal law enforcement officers who swooped in to get him. Nick Sorter was on Ingram last night with the details of this one individual who had, you see him on video, breaking a gun safe that was in the car in order to steal this rifle. And it turns out he's a gangbanger. What a shock.
But what I can confirm now is that Raul Gutierrez, age 33, that you see in the video that I posted last night, stealing a firearm from an FBI vehicle, has been arrested by the ATF and the DOJ. They executed an arrest warrant today, and he's a known member of the Latin Kings gang. I just got all this information just before I came on air. He's got a lengthy, violent rap sheet. Of course, he should have been in prison already, but in Tim Walz, Minnesota, like they don't arrest anybody here. So it's not surprising that he was able to go out and beat this gun safe to a pulp and pull this automatic firearm out of it and run away with it. And, you know, hell, if it wasn't for, honestly, a lot of us independent journalists on the ground that were able to get a video of this, nobody would have seen it happen.
Wouldn't know about it.
They were able to find this guy based on a video from independent journalists, the one that we posted last night. I mean, it's crazy that it has to be us doing this.
312-642-5600. Give us a call or text to that number. And so you know, you have a Kim Fox-like prosecutor. You have what you have in these pajama boys, Jacob Frey and Tim Walz, and the political power structure in that city and state, generally speaking. And you're supposed to just sort of slow walk the response when you don't have support from the local police. And frankly, unlike in Chicago, you know, where Snelling, you know, I think, tiptoed the line as best as you can between the local political class and the feds. You have the local politicos there suggesting repeatedly that they want the police, the local police, to be openly antagonistic. So you just hope that ICE and other federal law enforcement agencies can manage all that. By the way, Mogadishu, Minnesota is not their only territory. Finite resources. Or do you want to, issue the warning, which he did, and if it doesn't get better, then you back that warning with action. We're not going to tolerate it. Send a message to the rest of the country. We're not going to tolerate this. We're not going to tolerate open season on federal law enforcement officers that is given a wink and a nod by local politicians. Glenn in Orlando.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. I remember the reason why there's less police officers in Minneapolis is because of the George Floyd riots and how they treated police and how, the population of Minnesota has dramatically dropped, and the police, people who are looking for police jobs are going way down. So they did it to themselves, and they continue to do it because they don't have any support for law enforcement or rule of law. So, the inmates are running the asylum.
Thanks for the call, Glenn. Tony from Downers Grove mentioned the response to the Wall Street Journal about, this is going to animate Democrats and so on and so forth, as if this should be looked through, examined completely from the politics of it, as opposed to the propriety of it. One of the things that you get is a very stilted view of ICE when you just focus on the rioters and the awfuls that are uploading themselves for they think fame. I would suggest infamy on TikTok and social media, and indulging the emptiness within them through this virtue signaling and this screeching at ICE agents or worse. You think, that's That's the prevailing opinion in metropolitan Mogadishu, Minnesota. Maybe not.
You know, I love the suburb I'm in. So ICE was just in my suburb at our local grocery store while I was there, and they were grabbing somebody. Nobody in the grocery store stopped them from doing their job. Everybody was clapping and excited about ICE being there. People were hooting and hollering, you know, chanting for ICE. You gotta love small towns in Minnesota, honestly. We are so stoked. And honestly, you know what I did after the ICE agents got done with their job and what they were doing? I said, can I buy you all, you know, like something to drink, something to eat? And I did. And I sure did, because you know what? I'm excited that ICE is in Minnesota. Really excited. I'm not going to tell you the suburb I'm in, but it's close to Stillwater. We'll just leave it at that. Best thing I've seen today is watching an ICE agent arrest somebody and send them back to where they came from. Love it. Super happy about it. Love the suburb I live in, because there was no protesting. Nobody stopped them. Nobody did. Because no one gives a we want them gone.
Yeah. Don't be too sure the Chardonnay Antifa and the professional rioters that you see on the streets of big cities that represents the prevailing view of Americans when it comes to federal law enforcement and immigration law enforcement. I wouldn't be so sure. I wouldn't be so afraid of the political fallout from people rioting and attacking and assaulting ICE officers and just behaving in ugly, ignorant, intemperate ways. I don't think there's as many people out there across the fruited plains watching this saying, "You go, girl," as those neo-Jacobins think there are. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Are you confident your IT systems are rock solid? There could be cracks you don't see. Don't leave your technology to chance. Take the Access One $10,000 challenge to find out. For more than 30 years, Access One has helped businesses strengthen their security, protect their data, and improve resistance to cyber vulnerabilities, all with reliable U.S.-based support. And here's our promise. If our experts can't identify at least one measurable improvement to your IT systems and processes based on NIST or CIS regulations, we'll reward your compliance excellence with $10,000. This free, confidential risk assessment is available to businesses with 25 to 500 employees, and it's a great way to verify your IT is secure and efficient. No gimmicks, just proven results from an experienced IT partner. Ready to put us to the test? Visit accessoneInc.com/challenge or call 800-654-1555 to schedule your assessment today. Certain conditions apply. See details online.
Dan Proft here to tell you about our 2025 Food for the Poor campaign. If you've listened to this station and to our show for any length of time, then you already know about Food for the Poor. They are a nonprofit, faith-based organization that provides food, water, medicine, clothing, and life-saving supplies directly to local partners in Latin America and the Caribbean. We all know about how bad the situation is in Latin America and the Caribbean right now. Economic decline, political instability and corruption, and high food prices. The only thing standing between these families and starvation is Food for the Poor and their partners who are providing life-saving food relief on the ground. But in order to get food and water to those who need it most, Food for the Poor needs your help. Your gift of just $150 can provide food and water for 2 children for an entire year. For a gift of $300, you can provide food and water for 4 children for an entire year. To make a gift of any amount, just call 844-862-4673. That's 844-862-4673. Or visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor.
If the server asks you how you would like your steak cooked and you respond, on the grill, you might need a better night's sleep.
People are loving Penny Mustard's line of double-sided memory foam mattresses.
If you apologize to the chair you just bumped into, you might need a better night's sleep.
Made in Wisconsin and built to last 45% longer than the average memory foam mattress.
If you make small talk with your chiropractor and ask what they do for a living,
insanely comfortable, exclusive, double-sided memory foam developed by the sleep geniuses at Penny Mustard.
If you tried pinching and expanding the page of a magazine,
offering zero-gravity sleep positioning,
and backed by a 1-year comfort guarantee.
If the cashier says, "Have a great day," and you respond, "No, thank you," you might need a better night's sleep.
And a better night's sleep starts at Penny Mustard Furnishings.
Find a showroom near you at pennymustard.com.
Better versions of the sleep people want.
Penny Mustard Furnishing.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-330-8323 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-330-8323. That's 800-330-8323. What do you have to lose? Call 800-330-8323. Again, 800-330-8323.
AM 560, The Answer.
So the Florida Panthers were at the White House yesterday. That was kind of fun. 2 in a row. 2 Stanley Cups. And Matthew Tkachuk addressed President Trump and team and the assembled press. He did a nice job.
Well, I mean, the 2 cups was pretty good, but that walk with you might have trumped it all there. That was pretty amazing. No, I just want to say on behalf of the whole organization and mainly the players, we are so honored to be here, being an American. I know I said it last year, but I mean, nothing beats this. I'm so proud to be an American and so proud to be here with you and everybody else. So, but like I said last year, winning, it takes a toll. You pay a price for it. And each one of these members behind me, like, it really does take a village to make it happen. And each person played a very, very important part in it. And coming down to Florida, thanks to Vinny Viola and Bill Zito, has really changed my life. And I cannot believe that 3 years later we have 2 Stanley Cups. And like Vinny said, we are not stopping now. And we hope to be here next year. So that's the plan. And, representing you and the millions back here next month in the Olympics will be one of the highlights of my life as well. So thank you.
Wow. Eat your heart out, NBA. Very well done by Tkachuk there. I mean, other than the sort of Hillary Clinton, it takes a village cliche. I'd remove that from my vocabulary, but otherwise, very good. It's the epicenter of civilization, Southwest and Southeast, in this case, Florida. And we'll see. We'll see Monday night when the Canes take on the Hoosiers. Coming up at 6:36, we'll get an assessment of what Trump rolled out in the form of his great health insurance plan. HealthInsuranceMentors.com. See Stephen Tucker, the most knowledgeable man on health insurance in the Western world, joins us to discuss. 6:36. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 27 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A supplement powder has been recalled following a salmonella outbreak that's left nearly 50 people ill, including 4 in our area. New York-based Superfoods has recalled 2 flavors of their Live It Up Super Green supplement powder, which is sold in both bags and sticks. Officials say the original and wild berry flavors have been pulled from their website and off of Amazon. For a list of the specific lot numbers, you can head to fda.gov. Bears mania may have taken over the city as they take on the Rams in the NFL playoffs Sunday at 5:30, but it's not too early to start thinking baseball. The Cubs have announced that they've signed Alex Bregman to the team. The third baseman will be wearing number 3 on his jersey when he takes to the field this spring. He says he changed his number because he wants a 3rd World Series win. Bregman's deal is the 3rd highest in the team's history at 5 years for $175 million with a full no-trade clause and $70 million in deferred payments. performance. This report is a service of the AM560 mobile app. Listen to AM560 on your smartphone or mobile device when you download the AM560 mobile app at 560theanswer.com/mobile. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM560 The Answer.
Hugh Hewitt explains our involvement in Venezuela.
They are not generating any revenue from their oil right now. They can't move it unless we allow it to move because we have sanctions, because we're enforcing those sanctions.
They are running Venezuela through the leverage they have over the only thing that Venezuela has that can make currency for the police state that is largely still in power there after Maduro was taken to the United States.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
I've always wanted to learn French, but the app I tried didn't help.
If you want to memorize words in another language, there's an app for that. But if you want to really learn another language, there's Babbel. Babbel was designed by over 200 language learning experts to be the most effective way to learn another language.
With other language learning apps, I was just playing games. I wasn't really learning. Babbel's different. Every time I open the app, I can choose to work on my writing, speaking, or listening. And it saves my mistakes for me to review, so I'm constantly improving. Babbel feels like it was created intentionally by people who really know what you need to learn another language. Before Babbel, I thought I just wasn't good with languages. But now I'm speaking French. Tout ça, c'est grâce à Babbel.
Want to really learn another language? Save up to 50% on your Babbel subscription when you sign up at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com to save up to 50%. Babbel.com.
Mike Lindell has a passion to help people get the best sleep of their life. He started by creating the best pillow ever, and right now he is passing the best prices to you when you use promo code LIBERTY. They want to thank you for your continued support by passing on some Christmas specials to our listeners. Get wholesale pricing on the classic My Pillows for $17.98. Transform any mattress with a My Mattress topper and save up to $100. Get a set of Giza sheets for as low as $29.98 or the 6-pack towel set for only $39.98. To get the best specials ever, go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. These offers won't last long, so call 800-489-0201 or go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY. Rest easy remembering that MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty. Call today, 800-489-0201, promo code LIBERTY.
Hair Volume from New Nordic will make your hair look thick and healthy. Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Heads up on the Eden outbound at Wilson Avenue. An accident, a car slid into a ditch, and that is causing delays. Your travel times are 15 minutes inbound, 14 outbound from Lake Cook to Montrose. The Kennedy is clear, 8 minutes in both directions between Montrose and the Byrne Interchange. On the Eisenhower, it's 14 minutes both ways between Wolf Road and the old post office, but it's slow on the northbound side of the Tri-State as you head towards the Eisenhower. The Stevenson runs 25 minutes inbound, 23 outbound from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore Drive, and the Dan Ryan is 16 inbound, 11 outbound. This report is a service of Discover. Guess what? Discover's accepted in 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. You heard right, 99%. If you don't think so, maybe it's time to face facts. You're stuck in the past. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report, learn more at discover.com/credit card. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be cloudy and not as cold with a chance of light snow accumulating between a coating to an inch. Later, there may be a leftover snow shower. It'll be breezy in the afternoon with a storm total snowfall expected to reach 1 to 3 inches. Travel may be slow and slippery in the morning, but conditions are expected to improve in the afternoon. The high temperature will reach 37 degrees. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here yesterday from the Oval Office. Trump delivered a description of the great healthcare plan That's the name of it. Sort of on the nose, isn't it? But anyway, that's what it's called. That's what he says. And the top line is, money goes directly to you. You buy your own coverage. Big insurers lose, and you win, which is why it's the great healthcare plan.
Today, I'm thrilled to announce my plan to lower healthcare prices for all Americans and truly make healthcare affordable again. We're doing things that nobody's ever been able to do. We're calling it the Great Healthcare Plan. Instead of putting the needs of big corporations and special interests first, our plan finally puts you first and puts more money in your pocket. The government is going to pay the money directly to you. It goes to you, and then you take the money and buy your own health care. Nobody's ever heard of that before, and that's the way it is.
I like the broad strokes of that. I mean, philosophically, but of course, the details matter. For more on this and what the potential impact or what Trump unveiled to be enacted would be, C. Stephen Tucker joins us. He is the founder of healthinsurancementors.com. CS, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
What are you doing?
So, it's, again, generally speaking, he's talking about reinstituting market principles into the health insurance market in this country, which I'm a strong proponent of. But in terms of what the details are here, how this exactly would work and how rough the transition from the Obamacare scheme would be, what say you?
Well, you use the word philosophically, right? And that largely is what this is. This is more rhetoric to get us through the midterms, right? And the president's been doing this for quite some time. He's going to do this all the way up till November. In reality, what he wants done has to get through the U.S. Senate. And in order to get through U.S. Senate, you have to get rid of what Republicans call the zombie filibuster. If we remember the Strom Thurmond days where he talked for 24 hours in the Senate to oppose legislation, you don't have to do that. You haven't had to do that since the 1970s and the 1980s. All that one senator has to do is object. And then that forces the 60-vote threshold. That is why the continuance of the enhanced subsidies under Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, which were scheduled to end on December 31st and did indeed end. That is why the extension of those subsidies did not occur. That is why premiums have gone up through the roof, especially on silver level plans. One thing he wants to do is reenact CSR subsidies. CSR subsidies ended in 2016. CSR is an acronym that stands for Cost Sharing Reduction. And it's available to people who are just above 138% of the federal poverty level. So that's $21,600 a year for a single taxpayer, up to about 318% of the federal poverty level. So people in that column of the federal poverty level chart can purchase silver level plans. And silver level plans are what actuarial value is based upon. And it gauges how much of a subsidy that insurance companies get from the federal government. So everything is about silver plans. Since they did not enhance the subsidies, continually enhance subsidies, and because CSR subsidies specifically for silver level plans ended in 2016 and have not been extended since, the cost of silver plans in states like Illinois and Washington and other states has gone up double and triple for 2026. I'm not exaggerating when I say double and triple the premium. And so what the states like Illinois did was they knew ahead of time that the enhanced subsidies under the Inflation Reduction Act, due to end under Biden's law on December 31st, were not going to be renewed. So they simply did what's called silver loading, making the cost of silver level plans, which people on the low end of the income scale benefit greatly from, because if you are in that income bracket, your deductible drops from $8,600 a year, as it is on the bronze level plans, down to zero, Dan. Zero deductible, nothing on a silver level plan. Yes. So
but this is just so I'm following along, right? So that is for those in that 138% to 318% of poverty level. So 21 to
Correct.
70 grand or something like that.
Roughly, yeah, for a single tax filer, yeah. So those people benefited greatly up until 2026 by buying silver level plans because, and again, it's designed to help those people. Those people don't have the money to cut a check for $8,600 before the plan pays anything.
Right.
So it helped zero out those deductibles, and it was a part of the law that worked up until 2016, and then Congress stopped funding CSRs, right? So this year, once they knew that the enhanced subsidies under Biden's Inflation Reduction Act and on December 31st, the state of Illinois did what's called silver loading, making the cost of silver plans double or triple what they were in 2025. So that disenfranchised a lot of those low-income people because now they can't keep their silver level plan because it's double or triple what it was in 2025.
And the doubling or tripling, occurred why?
Because of silver loading, because the federal government is not funding CSR subsidies any longer, and they stopped doing it in 2016. And so what the state did is it, for the first time in 15 years, a gold level plan. This seems counterintuitive to people who understand metal values, bronze, silver, gold, right? Gold plans now are dramatically less expensive than silver plans for the first time in 15 years.
Yeah, but why now? Why now for the silver loading you're describing? Why now?
Because the silver subsidies are not continuing. They have not been funded since 2016.
I know, but they haven't been funded for a decade. So why now?
Well, now it's because of the enhanced subsidies under the Inflation Reduction Act. They ended on 12/31. Those enhanced subsidies made the silver plans appear as though they were just as affordable as when the federal government was funding them up until 2016, the CSR subsidies specifically. So now, for the first time in 15 years, you can buy a gold plan today, which is less than half the cost of a silver plan, which is just bizarre. But it's the way the silver loading scheme works in states like Illinois and Washington. So what the president is seeking to do, and again, this is all rhetoric to get us through the midterms. It takes 60 votes to pass any of this, which means it's not going to happen. Just as a repeal and replace of Obamacare is not going to happen. Just as subsidies that are available for people under 400% of the federal poverty level are not going to end, because it takes 60 votes to make these things happen. And the 60-vote threshold is nearly impossible to pass. In fact, the last time major healthcare legislation was passed with 60 votes, I bet you can guess what law that was.
Mm-hmm. Obamacare.
It was Obamacare.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So how hard is it to pass this stuff? Nearly impossible. So what are we going to continue doing? We're going to continue making promises, calling them great, crossing our fingers, and encouraging Congress to pass them. That's never going to happen.
Well, that's literally what he says: is pass it now, GOP, immediate relief for the American people we love. But
right.
yes,
right.
but do we have? Do you have a handle on any specifics that are available and how those and the mechanics?
Yeah.
Because here's what he touts at the top line, and then you fill in the blanks. End kickbacks to brokers, which reduces costs. Lock in drug discounts. That's the Trump RX, right? Forced transparency. Publish claims versus profit breakdowns, I guess, for insurance companies. And then hospitals and insurers on Medicare, Medicaid, that serve Medicare, Medicaid patients, I presume, must post all prices prominently. That alone would be really interesting to see what that looks like. But I mean, so in those sort of four buckets, the four points of his great healthcare plan, what do we have in terms of the specifics of how this would potentially work in practice if you could get to 60 in the Senate?
Well, they're already doing a lot of the things he wants to do, right? He did a lot of it by executive orders. When Dr. Oz took over CMS, which was a bizarre appointment, but it happened, in the investigations they did, much of it through DOJ, they found out that there were brokers, dishonest brokers, that were enrolling people, many of them on Medicaid, who didn't need private health insurance. They were using their data, Social Security numbers, et cetera, to enroll them in what's called bronze level plans, the lowest price bronze level plans. And because their income was so low, right, They enter their income just above 138% of the federal populace, so they get the maximum advance premium tax credit, which made bronze level plans zero premium, no cost for that bronze level plan. And so what happened was the brokers would get the commissions for those bronze level plans. The people on Medicaid who didn't need private health insurance never even knew they had these policies, but the brokers got the commissions. This happened at an unbelievably egregious level, right? And to his credit, Dr. Oz found that largely through the efforts of DOJ. And so President Trump is going to get rid of that. And he can do that because it's fraud. He doesn't need Congress to do that, right? The other thing he wants to do, he already started in his first term, and that was to expand the availability in states that do not outlaw them, like Illinois, of consumers to purchase non-ACA qualified health insurance, known as short-term health insurance. Instead of it lasting for only 3 months, it's now going to last for 3 years. But again, it's already happening. It happened in 2016. It stopped under Biden, and it's back without any of this great health care plan passing the Senate. It's already occurring. What the president is trying to do is codify what he has done via executive order into law, and he's asking Congress to do that. The 60-vote threshold is nearly impossible to meet in the U.S. Senate, which is why none of this is going to come to fruition via law, but he will continue doing it via executive order. And I applaud that. I think it's great to have an account where you can use money to buy health insurance, specifically a health savings account. That's a great idea. Health savings account is tax-free money. But to do that, you have to change IRS code. IRS code specifically, by letter of law, prohibits using HSA dollars to pay for health insurance premiums unless they're long-term care insurance premiums or Medicare supplement premiums. So how do you change IRS code? You need Congress, right? So that's what he's asking them to do, is codify many of the things he's already done. To get to 60 votes is a nearly impossible threshold, as both you and I know. So more of this rhetoric will continue to hopefully get us through the midterms. But that's what it's about. It's largely rhetoric.
Wall Street Journal opined on the supposed attrition that would occur among the covered with the end of subsidies as of December 31st, and it turned out to be wildly overstated. The Urban Institute projected Obamacare subsidized enrollment would drop by 7.5 million. In point of fact, it is down 1.4 million. And in some states have extended their open enrollment through the end of this month, so we don't even have final numbers yet. So the panic over the amount of the number of uninsured who choose to be uninsured, couldn't afford the subsidies, couldn't afford the health insurance without the enhanced subsidies that we're discussing, turned out to be wildly overstated. But despite that, you're saying that you're going to see an extension of these subsidies anyway.
No, I do not think the enhanced subsidies under Biden's Inflation Reduction Act will continue. I think they are gone as they were set to end on December 31st.
Right.
What's happening with these massive increases due to the expiration of those enhanced subsidies, because again, it takes 60 votes to continue those enhanced subsidies under Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. That's not going to happen, right? So what's happening, and the reason we didn't have such massive attrition from the marketplace, is people just moved from the benchmark plan, which was the silver plan, because of silver loading, down to the bronze plan. Or they bought a gold plan for half the price of a silver plan, right? So there's been movement in the marketplace, but there has not been attrition from the marketplace. Or if there has been, it's much lower than what, of course, the doomsayer said it would be.
Right. An example of this. These Soviet schemes are hard to make sense of, as you're describing with the gold and silver confusion. But the journal wrote, one reason forecasts may have missed the mark is that they overlooked that most enrollees still won't have to pay all that much for their plans. The Paragon Health Institute estimates that an average enrollee making 150% of poverty line, which is a little under 24 grand, will be expected to only pay $14 a week. An enrollee making 250% of poverty line, which is about 40 grand, would have to pay more, but still only $52 a week. and then, of course, income thresholds determine the subsidy amounts, which decline as incomes increase, but they don't include other government benefits like food stamps, welfare, disability payments, child tax credit. So it's, in terms of where the mass of Americans are on the household income distribution, it's just not going to be a significant increase for most Americans.
It is a significant increase for across the board because of the expiration of Biden's enhanced subsidies. Everybody's paying significantly more, but the shift to the bronze plans is tremendous because of the fact of silver loading. People can't afford silver plans anymore. People can't afford gold plans anymore. So there's a lot of shifting down to bronze plans, which are the cheapest plans. But the cheapest plans include an $8,600 deductible. So that's what's really going on.
So you're just looking at so the Journal's just looking at the premium side, but the utilization side is where you're going to get hit because, of course, you're describing the deductible is going to be that much higher.
That's exactly right. And again, the Journal is looking at the Paragon Institute, which is looking at the lowest level of income, just above 138% of the federal poverty level. For the rest of us who are not anywhere near there, we're over 400% of the federal poverty level, which is about $62,000 a year in 2026. We're going to pay full price for everything. And that is the major problem. That's why costs have gone up across the board. People who are not subsidy eligible are paying dramatically more in 2026 than they did in 2025.
And no, I mean, that's a really important point, particularly when you're talking about middle income people, which is what you're talking about there. So do you think this has been fully realized that I may not be feeling the pinch on the premium side, but boy, am I going to feel it when I have to utilize my plan?
Oh, they're getting it on both ends, Dan. Their premium has gone up substantially, and their out-of-pocket costs have gone up substantially, especially those moving from the silver plans down to the bronze plan.
And so what are we talking about for that person that's, middle income in the 65 grand range?
Oh, my God. I will tell you this. I've seen doubling of premiums. I've seen tripling of premiums in the case of silver level plans. In bronze plans, I've seen close to double, right? This, again, is for people who aren't subsidy eligible. People who are subsidy eligible are still getting very large advanced premium tax credits because, again, that part of the law has not changed. People under 400% of the federal poverty level are still getting tremendous reductions in premium. It's everybody else who is paying through the nose right now.
I'm just surprised there isn't more of a hue and cry based on what you're describing. I mean, I suppose it's just the people in the middle I was talking about earlier in the show that just are always play by the rules and are always getting squeezed from both sides, and they're sort of the silent majority that nobody cares about and nobody covers, and so you don't hear from them except perhaps on Election Day.
I hear from them every single day, Dan. Every single day, and it isn't pretty.
Huh. Okay. That's really important because that's going to be maybe an issue that's below the fold because it's not getting coverage and the level of detail that you're providing here. But that seems to be a much bigger issue than has been reported on to this point. That's fair?
That's exactly fair, yes. And the other problem, of course, is this new website, getcovered.illinois.gov, which now all Illinois residents must use. They cannot use the site we paid $1 billion to make work perfectly, and that is healthcare.gov. We must now use this site, the state site. And that state site is not transferring payments to the insurance company that were made via that site for January 1st effective date. So I have multiple clients who paid their premiums in November and December, expecting their coverage to begin on January 1st, and today they have no coverage, Dan. None.
So just Illinois being the unique case is always uniquely bad. So what could and should be done at the state level to improve the situation, both in terms of functionality, what you're describing, as well as cost? Is there anything?
Yeah, let Illinois taxpayers once again use the federal website that we paid $1 billion to perfect over 15 years. That site works perfectly. It has worked perfectly for 14 of the last 15 years. But via legislation, we can no longer utilize that site. This is the first time in 15 years, Dan, where I have people who paid their premiums, did the right thing, played by the rules, and they have no health insurance as of today. And all they can do is create a ticket at getcovered.illinois.gov, which is behind hundreds of other tickets for other people waiting for coverage that they duly paid for and played by the rules and still don't have health insurance on the 16th of January. And many of them need that coverage and they don't have it.
That is wild. I mean, that is wild. C.S. Tucker, this is why we lean on you, knows everything that's going on. Unbelievable insight and value add. C.S. Tucker, healthinsurancementors.com. If you're having problems, as you've just heard, he's the guy to go to. Healthinsurancementors.com. C.S. Tucker, thank you as always. Great stuff. Depressing stuff, but great stuff.
Indeed.
Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Here's sound teaching from God's Word from Dr. David Jeremiah on Turning Point. Each weekday morning at 9:30 on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
When you can no longer handle your own home, Hearthstone Assisted Living at the Lutheran Home in Arlington Heights is here to help make life easier. Experience upscale living with comprehensive health services. We offer fine dining, engaging activities, available chaplains, weekly worship services, and quality amenities including a bistro, expansive library, and general store. For a limited time, mention WYLL for an additional discount. Call 847-595-5024 or visit LutheranLifeCommunities.org.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer. News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
He deserves it. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's why Maria Corina Machado, a Venezuelan opposition activist, gave the Nobel Peace Prize. She was awarded last month to President Trump at their private meeting at the White House, telling Fox's Rachel Campos-Duffy.
I decided to present the Nobel Peace Prize medal on behalf of the people of Venezuela.
The president thanked Machado in a Truth Social post, calling it a wonderful gesture of mutual respect.
Still, President Trump is not pushing for Machado to lead Venezuela. Instead, he and senior administration officials say they are working well with Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, who served as vice president under Nicolas Maduro before his capture by the U.S. earlier this month.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House, where Fox's Aisha Hasni also has an update on potential U.S. action the president has threatened over Iran's deadly crackdown on protests.
We are learning from military sources that the U.S. is sending at least one aircraft carrier to that region right now. Meanwhile, Axios is reporting that the director of Israel's spy agency, Mossad, flew in today to the U.S. for talks with White House envoy Steve Witkoff about Iran.
Now to Minneapolis, where protests raged again last night, angry over recent ICE-involved shootings. They clashed with federal officers who used tear gas. And Fox's Matt Finn reports from Minneapolis.
Immigration agents are doing targeted enforcements and traffic enforcements all around the city. It's happening pretty much all day long. And a lot of time, those agents are met with protests and agitators. The backdrop to all that, at the same time, the established protest location is that federal facility that ICE is using as a detention center.
In the protest Wednesday night, 2 federal vehicles were broken into, body armor, weaponry stolen. The FBI has a reward up to $100,000 for info leading to arrest and recovery of what was stolen. Director Kash Patel says a gang member has been taken into custody. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 27 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom.
Alex Marla.
The Chicago City Council is considering a new assessment on hotel stays that supporters say would raise about $40 million. Jim Talamonte has the story.
The City Council's Finance Committee approved a resolution to impose a 1.5% fee on guests in hotels with 100 or more rooms in certain zip codes. Alderman Brian Hopkins said the lodging industry was taking one for the team.
What you're doing is supporting the entire hospitality sector and tourism industry. It's not just about heads in beds, as you say in your industry. It's about feet on the street.
One person is dead after a car collided with a school bus southwest of Chicago in the town of Manhattan yesterday. According to reports, the school bus driver and the students on board were taken to a local hospital to be evaluated and later released. The driver of the car passed away at the scene. 3 former DePaul University basketball players are among those charged in an NCAA basketball rigging scheme. According to the FBI, players from 17 Division I basketball teams have been accused in the cheating scandal. According to the indictment, the DePaul players were offered bribes ranging from $10,000 to $30,000 per game in exchange for shaving points off those games. In a statement, DePaul University athletics officials say they're disappointed that the former athletes from their school were involved, noting that the school has a, quote, long-standing commitment to educating our athletics community about the dangers and consequences of sports gambling. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again, not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Mike Gallagher would like some clarification.
We are not asking ICE not to do ICE things. We are asking this federal government to stop the unconstitutional conduct that is invading our streets each and every day.
What does that mean? Because the average anti-ICE protester doesn't want even the existence of these ICE officers in their streets.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Alex Marlowe at 11 on AM 560, The Answer.
One of the great memories of a vacation can be seeing history that you've only read about. That's the adventure you'll experience on Alistair Begg's Deeper Faith Norwegian Cruise, September 5th through the 12th, 2026. Exploring the land of the Vikings. You'll sail the pure waters of the North Sea to Norway's spectacular scenery, rugged cliffs, towering waterfalls, and quaint villages filled with Viking lore. Alistair will guide you daily through the scriptures as you experience attentive first-rate travel, complete with elegant cuisine aboard Holland America's majestic cruise ship, the Statendam. One of the stops on your journey through history will be Ålesund, a Viking-inspired coastal town known for its striking architecture and scenic mountain views. Cabins are limited, so call today, 855-565-5519, 855-565-5519, or log on to deeperfaithcruise.com.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, ethos.com/Mike.
Hey folks, many of us grew up on these high sugar cereals, Frosty Flakes, even Raisin Bran. You need to make the healthier switch to Grainberry, created by my dear friend Peter Harris and his father. It is lower in sugar. It's made with natural fiber, antioxidants, whole grain onyx sorghum, and that helps slow sugar absorption. Now the taste will win you over, and you can pick up Grainberry Bran Flakes or any of their other great flavors. Make the switch. Grainberry, the official cereal of the Sean Hannity Show.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. Maybe you haven't heard about us. We're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless has you paying for more data than you might need. Why? They might want you to cover the costs of younger people who do use all that data. If you're not using the data, you're probably being used. We've heard time and time again that some Big Wireless customers get stuck paying hundreds and even thousands more for years and years because they think it's hard to switch. Not with us. It takes just about 20 minutes and you can change your plan anytime without extra charges. We use the same towers as the big guys, so you'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the Big Wireless bill.
Our plans start at just $20 a month, and for a limited time, switch and get your second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com or a store near you and get your second month free today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional details.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Still in good shape on the Eden, inbound just 15 minutes both ways from Lake Cook to Montrose, and only 10 minutes in both directions on the Kennedy from Montrose to the Byrne Interchange. The Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office is 21 minutes, outbound is 17, inbound Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore 33 minutes, outbound is 24. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Byrne Interchange is 18 minutes, outbound is 12. Both the Bishop Ford and I-57 inbound slow down as you approach the Dan Ryan, and in Franklin Park, Wolf Road is shut down with an accident between Grand Avenue and Franklin Avenue. This report is a service of AM 560 Advantage. Membership has its privileges, including early access to event tickets, exclusive contest opportunities, and special members-only content. Join today at 560theanswer.com/join. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be cloudy and not as cold, with a chance of light snow accumulating between a coating to an inch. Later, there may be a leftover snow shower. It'll be breezy in the afternoon, with a storm total snowfall expected to reach 1 to 3 inches. Travel may be slow and slippery in the morning, but conditions are expected to improve in the afternoon. The high temperature will reach 37 degrees. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Well, I've got some good news and bad news for New Yorkers with the ushering in of Mamdani, the commie. Although the nurses on strike seem to like him very much. Saw him well received when he was walking down the picket line. Talked to Chris Whalen about that too. But the bad news, particularly for you middle-class honkies in the Big Apple, your private property ownership is a bit of a problem, and this according to Mamdani's newly minted tenancy Gruppenführer C. Weaver.
Target than Mrs. Smith, who owns 15 buildings. But Mrs. Smith, who owns 15 buildings, still kind of sucks and has a lot more stability than renters. And there's more of them than there are of the Blackstones. And so it's just this challenging dynamic that white middle-class homeowners are a huge problem for our renter justice movement. And we also see this with exclusionary zoning too. They're we don't want homeless folks to come live near us. So there's a lot of ways in which it shows up.
Yeah. Got to do something about white middle-class homeowners, property owners. Now, the bad news is your property is going to have to be effectively nationalized by the city government so they can set up these communal living arrangements that are much more friendly to the renters. That's the bad news. Good news, though, how about some new modular community toilets? State-of-the-art stuff.
We are announcing the launch of a new program to expand access to public bathrooms across the 5 boroughs, committing $4 million to a request for proposals for high-quality modular public restrooms. Right now, there are nearly 1,000 public restrooms in New York City. That is one public bathroom for 8,500 residents. In a city that has everything, the one thing that is often impossible to find is a public bathroom. In the greatest city in the world, you should not have to spend $9 to buy a coffee just to be able to find a little relief.
Okay, here's the idea. Turn the whole city into one big crapper. Christopher Whalen, chairman of Whalen Global Advisors, LLC, editor of the Institutional Risk Analyst, author of Inflated Money, Debt, and the American Dream. Chris, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan.
Exciting times. SimCity is coming into focus.
Well, sort of. I mean, I see this as the end of the progressive experiment in New York, and it's being driven by inflation. People can't afford to live in New York City. And Mondami and the rest of these characters, that young lady you were just highlighting, think that they can somehow fix the fact that prices and expenses in New York are rising much faster than income, but they can. Mondami tried to intervene in a bankruptcy case involving about 5,000 rent-stabilized apartments, and the judge, of course, said no. In that filing, he basically said that the rent subsidized, payments are make it impossible to run the building. So I think he knows the reality, but he's a politician, so he keeps saying what people want to hear. But in the background, they don't have the money to take care of the assets that they already own, much less take possession of more property to run. I think this is going to end very badly, Dan, and I think you know why. So it's fun to watch, though.
Well, I mean, it's entertaining in a dystopian kind of way, but C. Weaver, I mean, she's way down the road past President Trump when he talks about sort of institutional investors in home ownership. She's Blackstone is in her rearview mirror. She's going after Mrs. Smith, who owns a 4-flat. But what Trump did, or has proposed to do, to bar the Blackstones of the world from buying large quantities of residential homes. What's your reaction ostensibly to try to drive down home prices and increase supply? What's your response to that?
Oh no, that's another soundbite, this time from President Trump. Institutional investors typically finance new construction. You want them in the market. They only account for a couple of percent of total homes. And, running 1 to 4 family homes as an investment is extremely difficult. There are many firms that try to do it and they often lose money and then they get out. So, you would think an apartment is a more efficient way to provide housing to people, but it's not. Apartment buildings are more expensive than single family homes, bedroom for bedroom, right? But taking care of the house is another matter. That's very difficult unless you have the resources and the vendors and everything else in the local area who can respond when the toilet breaks. Because people who rent a house, for example, expect the same level of service as if they're in an apartment building. And that's why some of these investors have been doing rent to own, where they look very carefully for tenants, and then they help the tenant buy the house. So they have an exit. But I think it's just politics. You're going to hear a lot of inflation-inspired political statements. And, President Trump wants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to go out and buy $200 billion worth of their own debt.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
Down.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to have much effect because Fannie and Freddie have to hedge their book. The Fed doesn't. When Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell decided to go buy $3 trillion worth of mortgage-backed securities, they didn't hedge the book. And so that forced interest rates down, but it also cost the taxpayer a couple $100 billion in losses. That was the cost of COVID. Okay. So I have a little headline for you, by the way. Bill Pulte is telling people in Washington that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will not be released off the table. Since they're now out buying their own debt back, it's probably going to be difficult to do an IPO. So that's the news from Washington this week.
Well, I mean, that doesn't. Well, I mean, the whole Fannie and Freddie thing bothers me sort of generally. The IPOing bothers me. The buying $200 billion in debt bothers me. I mean, all of this bothers me.
Well, government can't fix the problem. The problem was caused by our friends at the Federal Reserve, specifically people like Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell, who thought that they could play God. They could put their finger on the scale and make everything okay. But they actually screwed things up rather dramatically. So now, one of the reasons I've been critical of President Trump's handling of Powell is that we've turned this guy into a martyr. he's not a very good Fed chairman, and he needs to go. But unfortunately, Trump has encouraged Bill Pulte and others to go after him. And, now we have Pam Bondi with this investigation by the Department of Justice. And yeah, I mean, the guy screwed up. The renovations of the Fed are a mess. And there's many other things he didn't do well. But you know what? We need to get him out of here. The best way to do that is just be quiet and let him go. Instead, he's going to probably stay on the board through 2028, Dan.
I saw you
his
said
term as governor is 14 years.
I saw you said that, but his term is up in May of this year.
No, his term as chairman.
Oh, as chairman, yes.
Yes, his term as governor goes through 28. He can keep that seat away from President Trump.
Well, that's true, but he can't keep the right. So you wouldn't be able to. You'd have to play musical chairs. You wouldn't be able to institute your own chairman.
Well, Myron will have his
from
term
the outside.
end. Right, but Stephen Myron will have his term end. President Trump will then appoint a new chairman who has to be confirmed by the Senate, both as a governor and as chairman. And the question is, are any other seats going to come open? So if Powell is sitting there, despite President Trump, he will keep that seat away from him. This is similar to what Mariner Eccles did when the Fed got into a pissing contest with Harry Truman after World War II. The great Concordat with the Treasury that gave the Fed back their independence after keeping interest rates stable throughout the war, really was in part negotiated by Eccles, who was not reappointed by Truman, but stayed on the board for a few months just to make the point. And then you had Tom McCabe as chairman, who is, a great figure in Fed history.
Well, this is one of these. I'm sort of with Joe Sternberg over at the Journal on this, sort of a pox in both their houses, Trump and Powell in this instance, because I agree with you. I think that the criminal investigation is wrongheaded, even if the $2.5 billion renovation is exorbitant and mismanaged. It's not clear
if you drive by on Constitution Avenue, it is extraordinary. You wonder what it is they're building there.
Well, I mean, but this is the federal government. That doesn't necessarily rise to the level of criminality. If building monstrosities at great expense to other people was criminal, then lock everybody up, which may be a good start. But the other thing is, it seems like it's a missed opportunity because, of course, Trump isn't challenging the underlying false premise of the Fed, which is that they are not mystics that can turn dials and pull levers and calibrate the economy, calibrate a $25 trillion economy. And Trump is essentially starting from that same faulty premise, is just saying you should cut rates faster. That's more mysticism.
Right. It is. It's a Soviet-style planning agency like Gosplan, if you recall. And I think, Kevin Hassett probably is not going to get the nod. I think he shot a hole in his rowboat by talking about Fed independence. So my hope is that Trump's going to pick Kevin Warsh, who's a great guy, former governor. Warsh is going to change the Fed. He is going to take them back to their statutory mission and get them out of the economic planning business, which, as you point out, they do very badly. And, but the trouble is that our beloved president is much more of a populist than he is a conservative. His instincts are conservative, but he's mutating into Richard Nixon right now. This whole thing with the government buying the mortgage bonds and various other proposals, you're going to see some more wacky stuff coming out about housing, by the way. There's been this troika of Trump, Bill Pulte, and Howard Lutnick, wrestling with what they should announce. And it's all about the midterm elections. That's all that matters.
Yeah, Lutnick has always made me uneasy, and Pulte has been, a little bit, I don't know, a little bit out over his skis on some things that are troubling too. Is that, I was going to say, is that fair? But I think that understates the case, right?
Well, he's a loyal soldier, but he doesn't know a whole lot about mortgage finance. He didn't even really work in the home building business. He's mostly a, social media star. But I think that ultimately you're probably going to see some shuffling in the group by the end of this year. Treasury secretaries tend to have a 2-year time horizon. So we'll see what happens. But Bessent is the only 18 player in this group. The rest of them are, kind of B's and C's. Lutnick obviously wanted Treasury, but he didn't get it. They sent him over to Commerce.
That's
But
usually
he's a
where
Wall
they.
Street guy.
Well, it's commerce is usually where they put the most oleaginous of their kin, right? I mean, that seems to me.
Yeah, but Wilbur Ross wasn't like that. Wilbur was a very smart boy.
Yeah,
and he quietly did a lot of stuff. He didn't need the spotlight. He didn't care. He worked in the mortgage industry for many years, as you probably know.
Yeah,
so
right.
he, very astute man. But Lutnick's a smart guy. It's just that he spends most of his time thinking about crypto. And by the way, the latest legislation on Capitol Hill involving crypto tokens looks like it's dead. This is what everybody's spending their time on, incidentally. The Congress has totally been focused on this because of the money. The contributions from the crypto crowd have been enormous, and Trump was hoping that they were going to carry him through the midterm elections financially.
So where do you? I mean, I mean, just going back, it seemed like a watershed moment to crypto when some of its greatest skeptics that have big platforms and big sway, like Jamie Dimon, sort of folded in and talked about its utility and inevitability, and so it was
for a little while.
Well,
but very quiet.
Right, but so that at that moment it felt like a you can't fight City Hall moment.
Right.
But are you saying that's
Exactly.
not the case anymore?
No, it's not. More than half of all of the stablecoin schemes that have been launched since the election of Donald Trump have failed. The wreckage caused by the price decline in Bitcoin from last year to where it is today, it's 30+%, has, I think, caused a lot of public companies, including JP Morgan, to pause and really take a look at this because it's too volatile for just about any investor you can think about. So would Blackstone or JP Morgan or any of these other shops really want to put retail customers into crypto tokens? Yeah, they can allow them to do it on their own, but do they want to really get out there and bang the tambourine? I don't think so. I think banks ultimately are going to end up running away from this stuff because, stable coins are a train wreck. They're, as soon as we have a run on one of these coins that affects a bank, that's going to be the end of that. And then the other schemes, Hype is one of the ones I follow. There's a variety of other things out there. They come and they go because there's no real liquidity. There's no market for these things. Even Bitcoin, there is no market. So when you have a big guy come in and sell, the price falls 10%, which is kind of disconcerting, if you know what I mean. So
do you still think this has the possibility, or maybe is, tulip mania?
Oh, it is tulips. It's electronic tulips squared, and it is.
So it's going to end the same way, which is to zero.
Yeah. It's going to end the same way, but
really,
the wrapper here is technology. Everybody, the one I love is Senator Bitcoin. I forget what her name is, but you have all of these politicians who've been saying, "Oh well, we can make this okay. We can fix it. We can put guardrails around it and regulate it." Not really. There's no way to make this acceptable compared to, say, public markets. So mind you, as we talk here about crypto and all of that and the problems they're having, private equity is an even bigger mess. We wrote about that this week. The private equity market is falling apart. And guess who lends on it? The banks. Everybody thought that non-banks and banks ran in parallel and they competed with each other. No. The non-banks leverage deposits from banks, and the banks end up with the risk.
So are we going to see?
Nothing has changed here, right? This is the same story we've been talking about.
So are we going to see more IPOs this year? if private debt
You
is
are
not.
going to see some. You are going to see some IPOs attempted this year. Yes, we'll see if they actually come out. The pipeline is full. All of the big banks were talking about how big their investment banking pipeline is this year. So we shall see.
Well, then, just sort of on the topic, big short guy Michael Burry
Yes.
is doing it again. And I've got a good friend of mine who's a Canadian, who's a pretty prodigious wealth manager, who's right there with him. You're tripling down on shorting the S&P because there's going to be some fleshing out of all this money sloshing around AI, they believe. Do you believe?
I think in part, yes. The angst in the tech sector is palpable because companies like Oracle, who I have followed for 30 years, great company, have taken on hundreds of billions of dollars in debt and other expenses to chase the AI shiny object. I'm a big fan of John LeCun, the former head of AI at Facebook, who's going off to do what he considers something that's real, which is teaching machines to actually learn. Building AI models based on language, which is what they are, large language models, to me is a dead end. And yet the amount of money that's been thrown at this just illustrates that humans are incapable of thinking independently when they're in a crowd. All of the big tech CEOs felt like they had to chase this, and they threw all of this money. Facebook has done this, all of them, Google. What are we going to have at the end of the day? We're going to have enhanced search, and they're going to have to give that away to consumers. Consumers aren't going to pay for that, Dan. So my concern is that people are realizing that there's not a lot of revenue here, and there's a lot of expense.
That's exactly what my friend said. But so that if we grow at if we're growing at 4% a quarter, we could still have a stock market bubble burst, the AI bubble burst. Is that could those two things happen simultaneous?
Yeah, the tech sector I think is going to deflate. NVIDIA, all of this stuff. I've been in and out of NVIDIA. I'm very grateful for the bubble. Thank you, Jim Cramer. You got me in 2020. But there are other sectors that are going to deflate too. The banks. Banks had a great year last year. They were up double digits, many of them. You know what the best performing bank in the country was in the second half was Lending Club. Tiny little bank that was started on Facebook as a marketplace for essentially providing personal loans to people who couldn't borrow from a bank. Interestingly enough, it's still a tiny institution. But my point is that the larger players didn't perform that great in the second half of last year. And I think you're going to see them giving back some ground, partly because of expenses, which means inflation. All of them are facing rising costs, mostly for personnel, and they're going to have to deal with that. You can hear my dog in the background.
Yeah, he's time for a walk apparently. All right, I don't want to keep.
No, she's greeting our wonderful housekeeper Nubia. So.
Oh, okay, all right. Boy.
That's a I love you howl.
Okay. Yes. Okay, Mr. Drummond. Yes. That's a little different Strokes reference there, with your house kid. Okay, never mind. Chris Whalen, thanks so much for joining us. Oh, you know what? Actually, I got to get one more question in here if you got time.
Sure.
And this guy I follow on X. I just did my taxes. I owe Somalia $2,000. Very good. And so that's the predicate to the question. Hochul and Mamdani, big announcement this week, $4.5 billion more to fund home-based daycare centers in the great state of New York. Are we going to see shoes drop in New York City and New York State like we are seeing drop in Minnesota and Maine and Washington State, do you think, with respect to benefits fraud?
Yes, very definitely. New York is a wealthy state. They fund a lot of this largesse with state money. But to the extent there's any federal funds involved, that the Trump people are going to be looking at it very closely. I was delighted when Scott Bessent got up and said 10% of all federal spending is stolen through fraud.
Yeah,
I think that may be conservative, but yes, And, you know, Trump has already ended the bromance with Mamdani. Trump is going to be pulling back funding from New York City.
Yeah.
He's going to make things
right.
as difficult as possible for this guy, and he should. Because this is all pie in the sky. This is kind of Bill de Blasio on LSD, is what we've got right now.
That's a visual.
Yeah.
De Blasio on LSD, that's what you got in New York. Oh, well, we'll pray for you and pray for us, too, because we've got something very similar.
Imagine having Chicagoans having to pray for us. That's quite something.
Christopher Whalen, Chairman of Whalen Global Advisors, editor of the Institutional Risk Analyst, and author of Inflated: Money, Debt, and the American Dream. Chris, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Have a great day.
You too. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning. It's 27 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Illinois residents now have until January 31st to enroll in health insurance through the Get Covered Illinois program, as the state has extended the deadline. Katrina Barker has the story.
State Representative Bill Houter, a practicing physician, said the extension highlights one of the core advantages of Illinois operating its own health insurance exchange rather than relying solely on the federal healthcare.gov platform.
It's probably exactly what they wanted in that you couldn't extend the enrollment deadline.
I'm Katrina Barker.
And a ground stop has been issued for Chicago's O'Hare International Airport until 8 a.m. this morning. Officials have issued the stop due to snow and ice on the runways. Snow is due to taper off by late morning. This report is a service of Team Hochberg. They've helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. Let Team Hochberg help you by visiting 56david.com or call 855-563-2843. That's 56david.com, lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
This week on Capitol Hill is the best way to get informed on everything going on with Congress. Hosted by Tony Perkins and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
All these things are going to come to fruition and come together in the first quarter, and all boats are going to rise, quite literally. We cut regulations, we cut taxes. It does better for consumers, and it does better for employees.
Stay informed and become a regular listener. This week on Capitol Hill, Sundays at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
Dan Proft here to tell you about an opportunity for you to promote your business and to make a difference this Christmas season. I'm talking about our Food for the Poor Business Benefactor Program. We've partnered with Food for the Poor to provide life-saving food and water for thousands of children and their families in Latin America and the Caribbean. Your business can be a part of this effort. Become a Food for the Poor business benefactor by making a $2,500 tax-deductible donation to Food for the Poor. That donation will help more than 30 children for an entire year. And when you do that, AM 560 will give you 40 one-minute commercials to air here on AM 560 The Answer between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m., Monday through Friday, at no additional cost to you. To take advantage of this deal, just call John Gallagher at 847-472-8950. Again, that's 847-472-8950. One more time, the number, 847-472-8950. Or go to 560theanswer.com/food for the poor. That website again, 560theanswer.com/food for the poor.
Well, that was a surprise. The HVAC tech just said our furnace apparently has a cracked heat exchanger, and it'll cost thousands.
Oh, you're kidding. He barely looked at it. Now he's pushing a huge repair? What should we do?
I don't really trust them. We need a second opinion. My brother Mark recommended Air Right Heating and Cooling. I looked them up, and they seem legit. Great Google reviews. I'm sure they'd give us an honest assessment. He liked that they checked their carbon monoxide readings so he knows the air they're breathing is safe. And I guess it also gave a sense of how much life was left in their furnace.
I'd love that peace of mind. Plus, why spend a fortune on something we might not even need?
Get a second opinion from Air Right Heating and Cooling. Tell them AM 560 sent you and get $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling right now at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
Start the new year off on a healthier note by taking active liver supplements from New Nordic every day. Available online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com. Or at your local CVS, ShopRite, Meijer Grocery, or Wegmans.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Still looking good on the Eden inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose is 16 minutes. Outbound is 17. The Kennedy inbound starting to get busy from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, 16 minutes. Outbound is 12. The Eisenhower slows down from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 32 minutes. Outbound is 19. It's 40 minutes inbound on the Stevenson from the Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore, 23 minutes on the outbound side. 22 minutes inbound on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange. Outbound is 11. Both the inbound Bishop Ford and I-57 slow down approaching the Dan Ryan and stop and go on Lakeshore Drive northbound into Hollywood Avenue. This report is a service of People's Gas Energy Efficiency Program. The People's Gas Energy Efficiency Program provides energy-saving tips and rebates to help keep the warmth and savings in this winter. Visit peoplesgasdelivery.com/rebates because the warmest things in your house are the things that make home feel like home. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be mostly cloudy with temperatures reaching a high of 37. There will be some light snow accumulating between a coating and an inch, followed by a leftover snow shower. It'll be breezy in the afternoon. The total snowfall from the storm is expected to be between 1 to 3 inches. Travel may be slow and slippery in the morning, but conditions will improve in the afternoon. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Remember when Pajamas Boy, mayor of Mogadishu, Minnesota, said this last week in the direction of ICE?
There's little I can say, again, that'll make this situation better, but I do have a message for our community, for our city, and I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
And that sort of moral indignation impressed one Chicago mayor, BLM Brandon.
Mayor Johnson, President Trump has threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act to send federal troops to Minneapolis. Have you spoken with the mayor of Minneapolis and offered assistance? And does this give you concern that he might try to do something similar here in Chicago?
I have spoken with Mayor Frey, and really commend his strength and his moral clarity in this moment.
Strength and moral clarity, those are adjectives I don't think of when I think of Pajamas Boy, or BLM Brandon for that matter. Of course, Walz, as we talked about yesterday, saying, not suggesting, but saying explicitly that ICE is going door to door asking neighbors to point out black and brown people for ICE to disappear. That's essentially what he said, not verbatim, but that's the gist of it. Our friend Bob Woodson, the great Bob Woodson, writing in the Wall Street Journal, the same moral blindness that fuels corruption generally. Poverty doesn't produce moral decay. Deprivation doesn't produce depravity. It never has. We once endured conditions far worse than today without losing our moral compass. During Jim Crow, when racism was written into law, black neighborhoods were safer than today. Elders were respected. Children could walk the streets without fear. Families were intact. Churches were full. And black marriage rates during the Great Depression were higher than for any other group in America. We had less money but more order. Less power but more integrity. Consider the massive pandemic relief fraud in Minneapolis, where $250 million meant to feed hungry children was stolen. Whistleblowers raised alarms early, but every question was deflected with accusations of racism until the money was gone. When accountability dies, predators prosper. When every critique is labeled racist, justice collapses. And that's what's happening. That's what's happening in Minnesota and big cities around the country. This is Woodson calling on Black America to declare a 1-year moratorium on whining about racism. Not because racism has disappeared and not to soothe the sensitivities of white America, but because grievance has become a shield protecting predators within our own communities. And now, seeing this model, other communities like Somalis in Minnesota have adopted the same model because it seems to work, at least for those that are on the beneficiary, that are on the end of the beneficiaries, benefiting from the fraud schemes and so forth. But to his larger commentary is so good, as it always is. I mean, just that again. When every critique is labeled racist, justice collapses. Victimhood, just one more. Victimhood is not a liberation, it is a leash. Racism is real and still exists, but it can't be the only explanation for every failure or the excuse for every crime. A community can't be healed by lies, and it can't be saved by slogans. No child was ever rescued by a hashtag. True empowerment requires moral clarity. It requires the courage to tell the truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable, and even when the guilty look like us. Yeah, that's accountability. That's what you don't hear or see from those who talk so much about it. The appearance of accountability. Jacob Fry, Brandon Johnson. For more on the topic, pleased to be joined by our friend Pastor Corey Brooks, senior pastor of New Beginnings Church on the south side of Chicago, founder and CEO of Project Hood. Pastor Brooks, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Man, how you doing? Thanks for having me on the show. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, good to have you as always. Your reaction to Brandon Johnson and Jacob Fry having a moment in the context of what Bob Woodson is saying, most specifically about Black America, but as is always the case with Bob Woodson, the lessons that he provides are colorblind.
Absolutely. I agree with him totally, 100% in his article. At some point, we have to move past the slogans, and we have to have an honest conversation about leadership, about policy, about accountability. I just tweeted yesterday that, when it comes to our mayor, there's always this constant verbiage around the idea of white supremacy and this talk about race all the time. And so I just raised the question, if this white supremacy exists to the extent that he says it does, then who's running Chicago? Because most of Chicago and most of Illinois is ran by Black leadership. We have a Black mayor, we have a Black superintendent, we have a Black school board president, a Cook County board president, Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul, the Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, and then Nance Holt, the Chicago Fire Commissioner. Judge Evans used to be the chief judge of Cook County. Treasurer Militia Colliers. We used to have the Cook County State's Attorney, Kim Fox. She was in place. I could go on and on. And,
Chris Welch is the Speaker of the House. Right?
Yeah, Chris Welch is the Speaker of the House. At some point, we have to stop all the race baiting and all the grievances and take a look in the mirror and say, okay, let's deal with leadership. Let's deal with the policies and hold people accountable. And I think there are so many of us who feel just the way that our brother just wrote that article feel, and we need to start speaking out more and more.
And you also wrote a piece for Fox I read about Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson is focused on Mowing ICE wherever they are in focus, like they are in Minnesota right now. He obviously commented on the mission to extradite Nicolas Maduro from Caracas to New York to face narco trafficking charges because the Chicago public school system, a big fan of the school system in Venezuela, in Caracas, under Maduro. They sent a group of CTU or CPS board members there just a few years ago to sing the praises of Maduro and the great school system there. So he had to rally around his fellow neo-Marxist and Maduro. He's always got somebody to blame, Richard Nixon, or somebody to focus on that is not particularly relevant to the day-to-day lives of Chicagoans.
Yeah, it's real. On his part, I see what he's trying to do. He's trying to make sure that he has an enemy to fight, but he's fighting the wrong enemy. Our politicians spend more time talking about Trump and fighting ICE than fixing Illinois and fixing Chicago. We're dealing with murders, poverty is rising, businesses are leaving downtown, schools are broken, taxes keep going up. There seems to be more taxation on the way. Our seniors are being abused. You can't even walk safely downtown. And here you are focusing on Trump and Venezuela. That is the type of leadership that needs to be held accountable.
And we also heard him, we played a bit earlier in the program, he responded to a call when he does the sit-downs with the NPR station, Chicago BEZ. And it was about these significant increases in property taxes in majority black neighborhoods on the south and west sides that was been reported on for the last couple of months. 130% increase in Inglewood, 100% increase in West Garfield Park, and so forth. And he basically said, we got to make that's why I want to tax the ultra rich, and we got to make investments in our schools and our libraries and our parks. So it sort of gave it short shrift. I wonder if the Tea Party reaction to of the burning of the property tax bills, the reaction when those property tax bills came out at the end of last year, I wonder if that response is being sustained in those neighborhoods. What do you think?
There are so many people who are upset because they're losing their properties because of these high taxes. What is being done in these impoverished areas is outrageous. But I'm so glad that people are finally starting to wake up and see what's going on, and they're starting to realize that these high taxes and these liberal policies are not beneficial toward our community, and they do not help us to climb out of poverty. They only push us deeper in poverty. And the more we wake up and the more we give voice to it, the more people are going to realize that things are changing from a political perspective in our community. And I think there are a lot of people who are really fed up, and then they're glad that people like myself and Flip Red and others are starting to really keep the pedal down and talk about these issues.
I mean, you think like Chicago Flips Red and the network that you have on the south side, even as you ambulate around the country. We'll get to that in a second. But do you really feel like, I know, you always have to stay positive and believe, and there's new people that enter, and sometimes people who were there leave. But you really think it's growing, that it's having an impact, that there is, sort of an oil spot event happening where it's radiating out from, Project Hood, the center, out into outlying areas?
Absolutely, 100%. I think, everything starts small, but never despise small beginnings. And I think the fact that more and more people are speaking out, that gives us opportunity for the message to be heard. It gives opportunity for more people to be exposed to a different way of thinking. And I think for so long, that idea and those words and those mindsets were pushed to the back. But now we're coming to the front, and we're making noise, and our viewpoints are being heard, and we're not going to stop. We're not going to be derailed. We're not going to operate in fear. We're not going to back down any longer. We're going to continue to push the agenda. We're going to continue to push the message, and we're going to continue to speak out against these policies that are driving our community further in the ground and creating a level of dependency that is only hindering us from going forward.
Okay, so you're walking across the country from New York to LA, started last year. Where are you at? How's that going? How are your feet?
So my feet are doing pretty good. I got a little problem, but I just keep pushing. I'm really excited. This week we're walking in Montgomery, Alabama, and we're headed towards Selma. And on Monday, we will actually cross the bridge into Selma, the actual bridge that Dr. Martin Luther King crossed. And we have about 1,000 people, hopefully, that are going to be waiting on us in Selma. And we're going to have a big event there outdoors. And so I'm really excited about the walk. And this isn't a walk of protest. This is a walk of merit, accountability, family values, the American dream, and helping to continue and further that message. And so I'm excited about what the walk is doing. Of course, we're not financially where we want to be yet. We still have a long way to go, but I believe we're going to make it.
And you're talking about the Edmund Pettus Bridge, right?
Yes, I'm talking about the Edmund Pettus Bridge. We're going to be walking across it on Monday.
Are you going to do your impersonation of Hillary Clinton, doing an impersonation of a civil rights era leader at the Edmund Pettus Bridge for entertainment?
No, I definitely won't go that far. I think I'll leave that with her and her crew. But I'm gonna walk across the bridge and enjoy the moment, and not and like I said, it's not a protest and it's not a march, but it's just a continuation of certain values that I would love to see America bring back to the forefront, especially in our community.
She ain't no ways tight. Yeah. Okay. They're cartoon characters, aren't they, Corey? They're just caricatures of themselves. God. Pastor Corey Brooks, Senior Pastor, New Beginnings Church on the South Side, founder and CEO of Project Hood, projecthood.org. If you want to follow Corey on his walk, if you want to support the effort, projecthood.org. Pastor Brooks, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. God bless.
You too. Be safe out there. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Salem News Channel, your go-to source for news and conservative opinion. We reveal how politics hits home, how your family, your freedoms, your way of life are debated, challenged, even regulated. Every day we cut through the noise, pitting nonsense against common sense. On every screen, in every home, Salem News Channel is across America.
Dan Proft here to tell you about our 2025 Food for the Poor campaign. If you've listened to this station and to our show for any length of time, then you already know about Food for the Poor. They are a nonprofit, faith-based organization that provides food, water, medicine, clothing, and life-saving supplies directly to local partners in Latin America and the Caribbean. We all know about how bad the situation is in Latin America and the Caribbean right now. Economic decline, political instability and corruption, and high food prices. The only thing standing between these families and starvation is Food for the Poor and their partners who are providing life-saving food relief on the ground. But in order to get food and water to those who need it most, Food for the Poor needs your help. Your gift of just $150 can provide food and water for 2 children for an entire year. For a gift of $300, you can provide food and water for 4 children for an entire year. To make a gift of any amount, just call 844-862-4673. That's 844-862-4673. Or visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor.
Did you know most remodeling mishaps start before construction even begins? Here's something else you should know. At Forever Remodeling, we do things differently. Every kitchen, bathroom, and basement project starts with smart planning, detailed 3D designs, a clear scope of work, and accurate pricing, all sorted out before you get started. No surprises, no stress, just beautiful results, done right the first time. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, EVER, remodeling.com. And schedule your free in-home consultation today.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me. me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
The following is a paid political announcement.
Stay tuned for a special message from Angel Dad Joe Abraham about his daughter Katie.
Put yourself in my shoes. I just spent my first Christmas without Katie. My daughter was murdered by an illegal immigrant Governor Pritzker protected. Imagine her final breaths, knowing that you would have given your life for hers, but you didn't have the chance. Put your child in Katie's shoes. Think of the unfulfilled dreams, the unrealized joys, and the permanent loss. I'm not a political guy, but when politicians unleash violent criminals, we all need to get involved. We can do better, and we must do better. Ted Dabrowski would have protected Katie, and he'll protect your children the way I wish someone had protected mine.
I'm Ted Dabrowski, and I approve this message.
Networks, streaming services, retail chains, and tech giants are all adding plus to their names. But where did the concept originate? We may be biased, but we think these big wigs found their inspiration for plus at Hassellus Mattress. Hassellus showrooms are employee-free. Give your mattress a try with no pushy sales guy. Plus, our 35 beds from the top 5 brands start at $393. Plus, unbeatable prices on Tempur-Pedic. Plus, free next day delivery and setup. Plus, free haul away and disposal of your old mattress. Plus, 60-month interest-free financing on select Tempur-Pedic with approved credit. Plus, a $300 MasterCard gift card with your Tempur-Pedic mattress. Plus, a ruggedly handsome spokesman with a smooth radio voice. Get all this, plus a whole lot more when you shop at Hassellus Mattress. Or maybe we should change our name to Hassellus Plus. Nah. Open 9 to 9. Find an employee-free showroom near you or shop online at hassellus.com.
AM 560. The Answer.
All right, coming up at 8:38, it is the end of the week. That means it's Open Mic Friday, so ready your fingers to dial in and offer your comments. Liz Collin at 8:08 on Minneapolis. It's now 8 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
It was a wonderful gesture of mutual respect. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's President Trump's reaction on Truth Social to Maria Corina Machado gifting him the Nobel Peace Prize she was awarded last year for her push for democracy in Venezuela that got her persecuted.
It went very well. I'm very grateful for the opportunity I had to speak with President Trump.
That's Machado after her private White House meeting, telling Fox's Rachel Campos-Duffy.
In spite of the Nobel Prize Committee saying that you couldn't transfer your Nobel Prize to anyone, especially President Trump, you did today. Why did you do that?
Because he deserves it. And it was a very emotional moment.
Machado also tells Fox she believes one day she'll be elected president of Venezuela. While Machado was at the White House, CIA Director John Ratcliffe was in Caracas meeting with Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, who President Trump has praised and prefers in charge of the country now instead of Machado. A U.S. aircraft carrier is headed to the Middle East after the president threatened to take action against Iran's deadly crackdown on protests.
The AP says several of America's Middle East allies have urged the Trump administration to hold off striking Iran over the crackdown on protesters. The news agency cites an unnamed Arab diplomat in reporting that top officials from Egypt, Oman, Saudi Arabia and Qatar made representations against an attack.
Fox's Jonathan Savage. The anti-ICE protests rage in Minneapolis. Clashes again with federal officers last night following 2 recent immigration enforcement-related shootings as the FBI tries to recover stolen body armor and weaponry taken during the protests Wednesday.
2 government vehicles were broken into, one graffitied with Hang Christy Nome, F. ICE, and Only Good Agent is a dead one during protests after a shooting involving an ICE officer. There's a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to the recovery of stolen government property and or the arrest of those responsible.
Fox's Chris Foster. 1 alleged gang members in custody. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 27 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. An early morning stabbing has left one man in critical condition. According to reports, that stabbing took place in the 7400 block of South May Street. The suspect demanded the victim's property, and when the 28-year-old victim failed to comply, the suspect stabbed the man in the abdomen. There are no suspects in custody at this time. The Illinois Department on Aging has released a plan to address the needs of older adults and caregivers. Engaging Illinois, a comprehensive plan for living well, was established by Governor J.B. Pritzker's executive order in 2024 and involves 15 state agencies and a 25-member advisory council. State officials say the Illinois over 65 population is expected to grow by 40% by 2035. Indiana Governor Mike Braun says the Chicago Bears noticed that the Hoosier State is open for business. During his State of the State address Wednesday at the Indiana Capitol, Braun said his administration is working hard to bring the Bears to Indiana and encourage state lawmakers to help make it happen. National Football League Commissioner Roger Goodell visited potential stadium sites in Northwest Indiana and Arlington Heights last weekend. And speaking of the Bears, if you were lucky enough to score tickets to this weekend's playoff game between the Bears and Rams, you're going to want to bundle up. Forecasters say the temperature at kickoff will be about 10 degrees, making it one of the coldest playoff games in the Bears' history. Kickoff is set for 5:30 on Sunday afternoon. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again, not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes, but time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
There's another round of bank earnings today. PNC Financial shares up nearly 2%. Its profit rose in the recent quarter as demand for loans and financial services increased. Both earnings and revenue topped expectations. PNC Financial is based in Pittsburgh. Regions Financial's profit was flat. Its revenue rose. Chief Executive John Turner says underlying trends in the economy have improved. Microsoft's Activision Blizzard gaming business is being investigated in Italy for the way it prompts users to make purchases. Gamers are urged not to miss out on rewards or limited time offers. And Japan's Mitsubishi Corporation is buying Aethon's shale gas assets in Texas and Louisiana. It's paying more than $5 billion. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
Mike Gallagher would like some clarification.
We are not asking ICE not to do ICE things. We are asking this federal government to stop the unconstitutional conduct that is invading our streets each and every day.
What does that mean? Because the average anti-ICE protester doesn't want even the existence of these ICE officers in their streets.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Alex Marlowe at 11 on AM 560, The Answer.
If you or someone you love are getting high quotes for dental implants, visit AlmostFreeTeeth.com today. With a medical PPO insurance plan, it's possible to save 90% off on average to be able to smile again. Check if you qualify now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
I can't believe how much better Dad's doing since we brought on Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest.
I know. He's more engaged, more himself. It makes such a difference having him right here at home. Around the photos, his old record player, his favorite recliner, all the little things he knows. That familiarity really matters with dementia.
And their caregivers, they're just incredible. They treat him with so much patience and respect.
Plus, they helped us tap into a Medicare program that offers 80 hours of respite care for Alzheimer's and dementia.
We're not worried anymore, and Dad gets to stay where he's happiest, at home.
Trust the caregivers at Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest, serving Cook, DuPage, Kane, Kendall, and Will counties. You can call them 24/7 at 331-281-0728. Again, that's 331-281-0728. And tell them AM 560 sent you. Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. Senior care, only better.
Did you know most remodeling mishaps start before construction even begins? Here's something else you should know. At Forever Remodeling, we do things differently. Every kitchen, bathroom, and basement project starts with smart planning, detailed 3D designs, a clear scope of work, and accurate pricing, all sorted out before you get started. No surprises, no stress, just beautiful results. Done right the first time. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, EVER, remodeling.com. And schedule your free in-home consultation today.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, ETHOS, ethos.com/Mike.
Hey folks, many of us grew up on these high sugar cereals, Frosty Flakes, even Raisin Bran. You need to make the healthier switch to Grainberry, created by my dear friend Peter Harris and his father. It is lower in sugar. It's made with natural fiber, antioxidants, whole grain onyx sorghum, and that helps slow sugar absorption. Now the taste will win you over, and you can pick up Grainberry bran flakes or any of their other great flavors. Make the switch. Grainberry, the official cereal of the Sean Hannity Show.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant-supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hackberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. You are jam-packed northbound on Lakeshore Drive between Forster Road and Hollywood Avenue, and the Eisenhower is very slow. 40 minutes inbound, 25 out between Wolf and the Old Post Office, but outbound stop and go approaching Higgins Road with a collision that has 2 left lanes blocked. The Tri-State is also jammed northbound heading towards the Eisenhower. On the Stevenson, 53 minutes inbound, 34 out from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore Drive. The Dan Ryan runs 40 minutes inbound, 15 out from 95th to the Burn Interchange. The express lanes are stop and go into the Stevenson, and the Bishop Ford slows down approaching the Dan Ryan. This report is a service of People's Gas Energy Efficiency Program. The People's Gas Energy Efficiency Program provides energy-saving tips and rebates to help keep the warmth and savings in this winter. Visit peoplesgasdelivery.com/rebates, because the warmest things in your house are the things that make home feel like home. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be cloudy and not as cold, with a chance of light snow accumulating between a coating to an inch. Later, there may be a leftover snow shower. It'll be breezy in the afternoon, with a storm total snowfall expected to reach 1 to 3 inches. Travel may be slow and slippery in the morning, but conditions are expected to improve in the afternoon. The high temperature will reach 37 degrees. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. This was the scene outside of the Whipple Federal Building near what was formerly Minneapolis, now known more colloquially as Mogadishu, Minnesota, at least by me. I text her offered Somaliopolis. Yeah, okay. This is the scene outside that federal building. We're familiar with these antics. Same thing happened outside the ICE facility in Broadview during Operation Midway Blitz, the height of it, right? Fine, you can have your little chance, no problem. That's protesting. Okay. This starts to get up against the line. Those protesters setting up effectively a de facto checkpoint outside the facility to check for quote-unquote Nazis. Car drives up, and this is how that went.
That's what a Nazi would say.
Not a Nazi!
I mean, it's still, all fun and games, but starting to give you an insight into the mentality, isn't it? It has a bit of an Antifa in Portland feel, where Portland police deferred to Antifa to police the streets how they saw fit. And again, this is all against the backdrop of the possibility of President Trump invoking the Insurrection Act if we can't get law and order on the streets of Mogadishu, Minnesota. Members of the community at the Mogadishu City Council meeting suggesting that city council members take specific steps to impede ICE operations, like this brilliant idea.
We are on our own. So what are you going to do about it? I acknowledge the difficulty of a city standing up to the federal government, but that should only inspire our creativity. I would recommend that our snowplows should dump snow to block the roads to the Whipple building and any staging areas to prevent these thugs from launching violent raids on our city. Also, our traffic laws apply to everyone. Minneapolis officers should be ordered to keep our streets safe by ticketing anyone going 31 and a 30, using a cell phone while driving, or not wearing a seatbelt. Make it personally expensive.
Sure. So put up impediments to federal law enforcement officers from getting into a federal facility, and use local law enforcement to, harass through traffic citations federal law enforcement. Seems like something Jacob Fry, Pajamas Boy, the mayor there, might be inclined to support, based on what he said yesterday, with his police chief, Brian O'Hara, standing right next to him.
And we're in a position right now where we have residents that are asking the very limited number of police officers that we have to fight ICE agents on the street, to stand by their neighbors. We cannot be at a place right now in America where we have two governmental entities that are literally fighting one another.
Well, I'm sorry, what are you suggesting? So if those alleged residents who are asking local police to fight ICE, what's your message to them, Mr. Mayor? For more on this, pleased to be joined by Liz Collin, multi-Emmy award-winning reporter and anchor, the producer as well of the Fall of Minneapolis documentary. Liz, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me.
So between Tim Walz's video taped message to the people of Minnesota, which he said that ICE agents were going door to door asking Minnesotans to point to black and brown people in their neighborhood, to Jacob Fry suggesting that the local police are fighting with federal law enforcement. What is the state of play there? And I know your husband is a retired police. What are Minneapolis police saying, doing in this moment?
Well, I would say that they're very frustrated with everything that's been allowed to happen again. But, they've been given stand-down orders. They're not allowed to cooperate with ICE. That has been the case for quite some time. I don't see that changing unless politics, drastically change in Minneapolis. That's not going to happen overnight, no doubt about that. But morale is at an all-time low. Those are words from the union president herself, who sent out a memo to cops. In fact, we have a new family leave program, a new law in Minnesota, and we're aware now that more than 100 cops in Minneapolis have now applied. This is 20 weeks of paid leave, essentially. They kind of call it a new fraud program, but Minneapolis cops are like, hey, we're not appreciated and we can't do anything. We're going to go ahead and take this. We also know that 150 Minneapolis police officers are eligible to retire this year as well. So really a sad state of affairs in Minneapolis. We're hearing about a big protest planned for tomorrow. These activist groups are well-funded. They're well-organized around the Minneapolis area, but they really do not speak to the vast majority of Minnesotans clearly do not support this ridiculous behavior.
And it was federal police that had to come in and arrest the guy who turned out to be a Latin King gangbanger, apparently, that stole a high-powered rifle from an FBI vehicle that they vandalized and ransacked. That was a federal law enforcement had come in. When I saw at the Capitol building, there was a student walkout, quote-unquote, protest that immediately turned violent and people fighting, and that had to be broken up. I mean, so what you're saying is Minneapolis police are sort of abdicating because they've been told to stand down, and yet you have Fry and Walz essentially saber-rattling on behalf of the police force in the direction of law enforcement. Is Trump right to be threatening the invocation of the Insurrection Act to restore order? Because it doesn't seem like Minneapolis police are going to be empowered to do that. It's even more likely that they're giving a wink and a nod. I mean, the politicians are giving a wink and a nod to people to behave as we've seen them behave, which is violently and illegally, because the police aren't going to do anything about it. And I mean, Jacob Fry was on the precipice of encouraging police to go into combat against ICE officers.
Yeah, just going to walk your listeners through the sequence of events this week. It's very interesting. So you had Nick Shirley release another video on fraud this week on Wednesday, and it was within hours, all of a sudden we hear from Governor Walz for the first time in several days. He's been keeping a very low profile. And in this speech, he talks about, recording ICE officers for future prosecutions. We'd like to create a database, help us do that. I think more than anything, this is a PR move. They're trying to get the spotlight off of this massive fraud scandal in Minnesota. So then you have the governor make those remarks. Then you have President Trump threaten the Insurrection Act, followed then by a statement from Governor Walz, who seems to sort of back off and say, hey, everybody, keep calm. So I think there's a lot of deflection going on in Minnesota to avoid this fraud topic at all costs.
Well, but Jacob Fry didn't give a calm down message. That wasn't a calm down message.
Well, I think that we have a little bit more going on with the state leaders with the implications. I'm not saying Mayor Fry is innocent in this at all, but this is kind of expected from the mayor at this point. I mean, anybody who's paid attention to Minneapolis politics knows how nuts this guy is. So.
Yeah, but okay, and so on the fraud matter that they want to deflect attention away from, and use Trump and ICE as the boogeyman, we get the MO here. So where is that at? I mean, it seems to me it's completely within the realm of federal law enforcement again, because I don't see any particular interest from Keith Ellison or Mary Moriarty or anybody at the state or local level in the region, in the state.
Yeah, that's why I think they seem to be thankful that there is this ongoing chaos, that they can continue to, sort of do this pitting against, different agencies and, normal people against these activists who have now come in again, but or just lying about all of these incidents. This is what they do. But the fraud, it's interesting. I spent some time with Dr. Oz today, the administrator, or this week, I should say, the administrator of Medicare and Medicaid, and also Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill. They were in town from HHS. They were out checking out fraud sites. They were quickly surrounded in a parking lot, flipped off, told to leave. It's just really some chaotic scenes that played out for them as they're trying to gather answers. But they said they're here because President Trump is done with this. They're going to go ahead and get to the bottom of it, and more than anything, get it to end. But this is something that's really been going on for a decade. I've been a reporter in Minnesota for 20 years, and this has been a part of the news cycle in one way, shape, or form for quite a while. But with all these new eyes on all of it, with these viral videos from Nick Shirley, I think the writing is on the wall that the fraudsters' days are numbered in Minnesota.
Well, I mean, and what are the potential implications of cutting off federal funding to Minnesota? I mean, at first it was just Medicaid payments, and now it's February 1, cutting off funding to sanctuary states, generally speaking, from various federal agencies, the revenue streams from various federal agencies. I read that basically a third of Minnesota's state budget is federal dollars.
Yeah, there are some real concerns. There are actually legit businesses in Minnesota who rely on this funding.
Yeah.
You know, and we've been documenting their concerns as well. But and we have a lot of reporting over at alphanews.org. In fact, we launched a fraud page on our website. This was months and months ago now. Just about all the stories we've done. I think it's more than 300 or 400 at this point over the last 10 years. So you can really just get a better idea of how deep this all goes. But that's actually what Dr. Oz was speaking about, how it's like this criminal network that's been set up here. And he did say that, you know, we're not here to be taking out legit businesses. We are aware of a couple, like a group home that's closing in northern Minnesota due to funding issues. There's just a lot of things that still have to be sorted out.
Well, that's part of the story. When you allow fraud to run rampant in the system, then
Right.
people who are on the up and up get hurt too. I mean, this is people who are really in need of the services get hurt too. I mean, that's
Yep.
part of the message, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's been said here from these legit business owners how they've been impacted, but in many ways, just speaking to members of the federal government, they just can't believe that so many on both sides, have allowed this sort of look the other way. And in doing our reporting that we've done, you see in so many of these cases that this is so deep. It's tied to legislation that's passed at the Capitol for federal reimbursement for things, rides to school. All of a sudden, homeless populations are rising at school districts across the state, not because there are more homeless kids, but because these vans can go ahead, these van drivers can get reimbursed 100% from the federal government for these rides. Are they taking any kids? Doesn't seem like it. Are there any safeguards in place? Doesn't seem like it. So they've really exploited every program they possibly can.
And the willful blindness even of federal authorities in the previous administration.
Right.
I mean, you did one of the first interviews I saw of a TSA whistleblower who talked about, for half a dozen years she watched essentially tens of millions of dollars in cash be couriered by Somali men through the airport there and out to Abu Dhabi and perhaps over to Somalia and who knows, God knows wherever else. And there was a lot of shoulder shrugging, a lot of curiosity among TSA agents, but it never rose to the level of anybody doing anything about it.
Yeah, and actually I've even talked to some former people on the task force investigating all of this, and they've told me how they were turning this over to the U.S. attorney at the time for charges, and everything just would kind of disappear. But these were these were people that were picked either under Biden or President Obama even at the time. So nothing went anywhere. They just disappeared. Those were their words, how they described it.
Well, part of this is something you said at the outset in terms of what we're seeing dominate social media and certainly DC press corps or local press corps reporting it to some extent too, is maybe not representative of regional opinion on the matter of federal immigration law enforcement and the importance of the revelations of these fraudsters. I wondered about the political implications. Obviously, one of them has already been meted out in terms of the belief that Tim Walz wasn't viable to run again, and so he's not. But in Minnesota is sort of a curious state. On the one hand, the legislature is very hotly contested, it's very close. On the other hand, at the statewide level, it's dominated by people like Tim Walz and Keith Ellison. So one wonders if you think that there is the possibility of a political reckoning, from the electorate coming, if not in Minneapolis, then maybe at the state level.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of this. We have a very crowded field for governor on the Republican side of things, and everybody thinks that it's going to be Senator Amy Klobuchar that's going to run for governor now in Minnesota. She's definitely keeping her distance from Governor Walz, no doubt about that, but has yet to make anything official. But I do, I actually did an event down in southern Minnesota this week, and you do sort of feel this, sense of hope for a change, I think, in Minnesota, that maybe, change is coming. But, you have a lot of people still calling for Governor Walz to resign, and I do think that he's definitely not out of the woods yet, as much as he's desperately trying to get the news cycle to change off this fraud thing. But yeah, I think there's some really good candidates running for governor, and this isn't it's always like Minnesota is made into this blue state. That is not the case at all. It's a couple blue cities, and like in the other state, but the vast majority of Minnesotans, the polling shows they support ICE. This is what President Trump ran on, and people don't want to live next to, murderers or child rapists. This isn't something that's really that controversial when it comes to Minnesotans with common sense.
Right, and we talked about this too, but I mean, just your perspective on it. It seems like it's a pretty straightforward response to politicians that are being so wildly disingenuous. You say you don't want, you say we're a sanctuary city, but of course we want public safety threats, people who have been convicted of crimes and are in this country illegal. Of course we want them removed. Okay, but you want to you force ICE to abdicate. So who would remove them? It's just like a simple practical question that I presume practical people that are not necessarily ideological in even in the metropolitan area can understand.
Yeah, I think that these scenes aren't playing out in other states, and why is that? That's because local police departments, local sheriff's departments are allowed to cooperate with ICE. That's not allowed here. Attorney General Keith Ellison issued this ruling, I guess, if you will, this interpretation of the Minnesota Constitution, saying that you can't cooperate with ICE. And we've seen sort of bit by bit sheriff's departments break off, and they're entering into that 287G program that allows them to cooperate with ICE, meaning that these illegal aliens, if they're picked up, if they're in jails, they're picked up from jail. They're not allowed to go home, and then you have these ICE agents who are forced out, into these neighborhoods to go to these businesses to track these guys down, to pick them up. This is not happening in other states, but in a way, you have these Democratic politicians trying to capitalize on that chaos.
I mean, just since you did such a deep dive on the George Floyd case in your documentary, The Fall of Minneapolis, can you compare and contrast for us on the outside the local feelings and reaction, including to the fallout of George Floyd's death and Renee Good's?
Yeah, I will say that there's certainly some similarities with the outside. There's been a lot of outside agitators that have come in, and I think that's kind of been ramping up day by day. But you also have this fight for the narrative that I think was not allowed to happen in this case. We actually were able to obtain the cell phone video of the officer involved within just a couple days of the incident, which shows Renee Good revving her engine. You have her wife saying, drive, baby, drive. You have the officer who's clearly hit on that cell phone video because you can hear it. In George Floyd, remember, they hid all of the evidence. They hid the body cameras. Nobody could see that for 2.5 months. Many people to this day have never seen it unless you've seen the fall of Minneapolis. But there was just so much more to that story. So you originally had, Mayor Fry, within hours of Renee Good, this incident, he's telling ICE to, get the F out of the city and yada, yada. They're spinning this into a murder, but their language quickly was tamped down after, the full story was coming out. You also have DHS. They released a video that shows Renee Good and her wife, along with many cars, being on scene for several minutes, honking horns, trying to obstruct ICE and their activities. This isn't just a mom who happens to drop her kid off, which the local media and the Democrats were trying to portray. She's dropping her kid off, going home after school drop-off, and she just happens to run into an ICE officer who executes her in the middle of the street. That narrative quickly was stopped once that video came out.
Yeah, Adam Schiff. She was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah, and also the information that came out, the report that came out that Officer Ross suffered internal bleeding. So, I mean, that doesn't happen just by standing around. So anyway, Liz Collin, multi-Emmy award-winning reporter and anchor, producer of The Fall of Minneapolis. Liz, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Have a good weekend, sir.
You too. And coming up, we'll have Open Mic Friday. Take your calls, 312-642-5600. Text us as well if you like. Now we check the headlines.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Too often, cremated remains are kept at home, then forgotten. At Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Hillside, we have your cremation options. Come visit our new cremation garden, see our beautiful granite columbariums, or view our elegant indoor glass front niches. These offer sacred, lasting ways to honor your loved one. If cremation is your choice, our memorialization is a forever option. Give them the dignity of a permanent resting place where they'll be remembered for generations. Visit us today, CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org.
82 million Americans rely on AM radio for news, sports, talk, and emergency alerts. But unless Congress acts now, AM could disappear from new cars. Tell lawmakers AM radio matters to you. Text AM to 39179 and urge Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act before it's too late.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
AM 560, The Answer.
Open mic! Open mic Friday! Call it now! Open mic Friday!
Top of the morning. Yes, it is that time of the week, Open Mic Friday, taking your calls with comments, compliments, criticisms, concerns. General Crack Pottery will take it all. 312-642-5600 if you want to grab a line and offer your comments, criticisms, concerns, compliments, General Crack Pottery. You can also do so. Same number. Text us. 312-642-5600. Let's go right to the phones. I got some things I want to weave in, but we'll start with you. And the you we'll start with is Grant in Rockford.
Good morning, Dan. Happy Friday. And just real quick for my point, you put on the best radio show out there. Everybody, you put on a good show. So anyway,
thank you.
These Somalians and all these fraudsters. I'm glad they're going after them and stuff, but they got help. Somebody helped them. I don't believe that they're good people, but I don't believe that they discovered all of these elaborate schemes for fraud. I mean, there must be some lawyer, there must be some attorney. There's somebody that's helping them, and if you got to go after them too, otherwise it's just going to persist.
Well, thanks for the call, Grant. I mean, I think that's what you see happening is federal law enforcement is following the money and working up the hierarchy to the extent there is a hierarchy with some of these fraud scams. Now, some of it is just, paying it forward, if you will. Somebody figures out, it seems to me, a way to fraud the system, and other people follow suit, as in the case of these repeated incidents of, say, daycare fraud. But again, this is what Kash Patel had to say in an interview with John Solomon and company over at Just the News. Now, he's talking specifically about the rioting that is being financed, the rioting and the vandalism, these droogs on the streets of Mogadishu, Minnesota, that are committing acts of violence and attempting to interrupt federal law enforcement officers' operations or worse. But the same attitude, I think, applies to the fraudsters. Take a listen.
I can tell you, generally speaking, that these protests, whether it's Minneapolis or LA or Portland or where have you, aren't spontaneous. They don't magically appear. Most of these individuals aren't even from those respective areas. But more importantly, behind that, someone has to pay for it. Somebody has to pay for the transportation. Somebody has to pay for the signs. And when you find things like every single person is holding the exact same sign on the exact same piece of wood and the exact same placard, they didn't get together beforehand and do that. It is an organized, in my opinion, effort to criminally disrupt and cause chaos into our communities. And this FBI is investigating every single organization and person responsible for paying or contributing in any way to the organization of these protests, and also going after those actors, the criminal actors at the protests themselves.
So, the corollary would be like, okay, so you've got them frauding the benefits programs in Minnesota, and then what we were talking about with Liz Collin. And then a couple of Somali gentlemen are flying out of the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport with $6 million in cash in a duffel bag. And where are they going? And how's the money getting distributed? I mean, that speaks to a network, and that's also Scott Bessent territory in the Treasury Department in terms of investigating that sort of money flow to the extent it goes through institutions, like maybe it's Abu Dhabi, and then somehow that gets to the original Mogadishu in Somalia. So I think there is, to use an overused phrase, a whole of government approach here with respect to the feds on the programmatic side through federal programs like Medicare and Medicaid and other programs that are run where money is being run through HHS to states and state programs, as well as the sort of international trafficking of ill-gotten dollars, perhaps to terrorist organizations like Al-Shabaab, which has been suggested. Like that is going on, as Patel and Tom Homan mentioned the same thing in his conversation with Laura Ingraham the other night, with respect to those that are underwriting the incitement to chaos and even to violence. Joe in Crown Point.
Hey, Dan, just wanted to congratulate you on your contract extension.
Oh, thank you very much.
And also, I booked for the State of the Union. It's a tough choice picking between all the great AM 560 hosts. Looking forward to it. You got my nod, so I'll be at your table. Looking forward to that because love your wit, intellect, and just common sense.
Thanks so much, Joe. Appreciate it. Looking forward to it. That's February 24th. Yeah, we're having a State of the Union event. The details evade me, but they're on our website, so you can get them. And there was a release put out. Just to address that. Thank you very much, and I posted on X about it. But I appreciate all the callers and texters and our recurring contributors, and it's great to have this platform for another couple of years. And we, Justin, Quinn, myself, the team here, try to put on a good show, and I'm really just sort of a part of this great ensemble cast that we have, and it's fun to do because we have so many intelligent and creative and funny people on as experts, as well as just ordinary Americans, to borrow from the late great Bruce Dumont, that contribute to the show. So it's my pleasure, and very humbled to have the platform in these turbulent times. So thank you very much. Mark in Palatine.
Hey there, how are you today?
Good.
Yeah, I listen to you every morning. I just wanted to call yesterday. I couldn't get through, but the Josh Hawley thing, I'm listening. Did that doctor go to like 8th grade biology class? And then I was thinking, every time I go to my urologist, there's posters on the wall. But why don't they do a visual and say which one is which, and have these people, actually show their true colors?
Thanks for the call, Mark. It's been an interesting week, from the Supreme Court to that Senate hearing and the exchange that Holly had with that doctor, that reproductive health advocate, Dr. Verma. We went from what is a woman, and the lawyer for the ACLU in the case before the court, as well as, of course, Ketanji Brown Jackson. They have no idea. Then we had the Josh Hawley exchange with that doctor. Can men get pregnant? We couldn't seem to get an answer out of that doctor whether or not men could get pregnant. And then I saw that Ben Shapiro sat down and did an interview with Gavin Newsom, who's trying to pretend to be a reasonable person for the purposes of his 2028 ambitions. And the question was, can a boy become a girl? And we couldn't get to an answer from Gavin Newsom on that either.
Fundamental question that lies at the root of all of this is the question that you're not wanting to answer, which is whether boys can become girls.
Yeah, I think I'm for the grace of God. Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate the sympathy. I also feel terrible for anybody who's suffering with any sort of
I think it's
mental or
been
physical
the
condition.
case
That's
for
terrible, but
generations, for time immemorial. God bless. I don't
why
know
is
how.
this a hard one? I just don't understand.
Because I don't know why
it's such a.
Why is it such a? I'm curious. I understand the political potency of it.
It's not just politically potent,
but it's just how. It's so few. We're talking about so few people.
It's not about
that are struggling with gender identity issues. A lot of remarkable people, a lot of wildly successful people, and they've gone on their life, have incredible lives. I don't know. There's so much hate and bigotry, so much condemnation, so much judgment.
This is the part where I start to object.
Yeah.
Okay. The idea that
you may not be spewing it.
No.
Like some others. Trust me.
But
this is the business they're in.
There are lots of terrible people who say lots of terrible things, but
yes.
It is not an act of bigotry to say that a boy cannot become a girl, nor should my children be taught in K through 12 public schools that a boy can become a girl.
Yeah.
That is not an act of bigotry. That's an act of rationality and biological simplicity.
I respect your point of view. And,
That's the most you can get. A boy cannot become a girl. I respect your point of view. Okay. Okay. So that's what we seem to be unable to find answers to questions from the leading lights of the left this week. 3 of them. What is a woman? Can a man become pregnant? Can a boy become a girl? A governor, a medical doctor, and a Supreme Court justice and ACLU attorney, member of the Supreme Court bar, cannot come to a conclusion on those 3 questions. That's the left in 2026 America. Kevin in Austin, Texas.
Dan, thanks for taking my call. First, congratulations on the 2-year extension. I first started listening to you when COVID started. What was that, March of 2001 or 2000 or 2020 or 2021?
Yeah, 2020. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
seems like just yesterday.
No. It does. It does. Because I always say the same thing as far as what my thing is. But it's been exciting listening to you, and I feel like it helps me keep my Chicago accent. I first got turned on to it by listening to my brothers, or my brothers telling me, you got to listen to this guy. And you were kind of a beacon of light for me down here because it was crazy. And then I realized how different living in Texas that the media environment is up in Chicago, the whole of Chicagoland. And so I feel like you're kind of like, what is it, Illinois, Free Illinois? What do they have when they had like U.S. America, Air America going into Europe to try to battle the
inside enemy lines on my ham radio, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I feel like that's what you do. And I hope you just to challenge you moving forward, I hope you challenge your listeners to get involved in a precinct level. And I understand that the leadership has to do something, but the ground level can do something as well. There's somebody down here, is Michelle Evans, who is the new chair of Williamson County. Williamson County actually, which was like DuPage, it voted for Biden, but she was able to go out and organize and then flipped it back red. I think that it should be interesting for you. And I wish you would talk more about your Twitter feed or just give out your Twitter thing. I think you have some funny stuff on there. So anyhow, it's been a pleasure listening to all you, and I look forward to 2 more years. And just imagine if we had that army of precinct chairs, Ted Brodsky would have a lot more people behind him. So anyhow,
thanks for
2 years to go.
Thanks for the call, Kevin. Appreciate it. Yeah, my Twitter's @DanProft. People I don't post everything. I mean, just a couple of things a day, maybe, in terms of what we go over in the show. You got to listen, But, yeah, there's some stuff there, too, that you can repurpose if you want. Let's go to Rob and Moore. Hold on. Technical difficulty. Rob and Morris.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
All right, got you?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I got you. So DeSantis has talked about getting rid of real estate taxes for homeowners. I know Trump has mentioned as well. What I don't see is the end game, because all the taxing bodies still going to get their money, the schools especially. So where's the redistribution going to go that everybody's still funded?
Well,
somebody's going to pay the bill.
Well,
so you're just moving the money around.
Yeah, well, there's no question, Rob, but you know, and the whole Florida thing is interesting. Thanks for the call. The whole Florida thing is really interesting, and I haven't dug into it such that I feel comfortable getting into the specifics. And by the way, there's some back and forth among Republicans with respect to what DeSantis has proposed, and what we'll see perhaps in referenda, in the form of a referendum to eliminate property taxes or eliminate property taxes up to a threshold or have some sort of formula. There's other Florida legislative Republicans I know they're talking more about some sort of relief to a certain threshold as opposed to the elimination of it altogether. But it's how incredible is it to be having that conversation as opposed to languishing under the highest property taxes in the nation, depending us or New Jersey, back and forth, depending on how you measure it. But highest property tax in the nation, highest state and local tax burden in the nation. I'm talking about Illinois. Having a completely different conversation in Florida that already does not have a state income tax, does not have an estate tax, and whose schools are performing better overall than Illinois. And by the way, Florida, just like Indiana next door, with a hard cap at 1, 2, 3 hard cap on property taxes. They got schools, they got police forces. They're doing better than Illinois too. So it certainly can be done for a lot less on a per capita basis and a percentage of home value with respect to property taxes than Illinois does. And maybe driving the conversation in that direction. How it would get done in Florida, I will do my due diligence, and I'll get back to you on the competing proposals and theories about how you would fund government K through 12 and other public services, sans a property tax or sans a property taxes or certain thresholds and so forth. Do have other use taxes and sales taxes and things like that. So, but I mean, if you just moving in, you already have a boom in property values in states like Florida and Texas and Tennessee. Can you imagine if you reduced that negative multiplier? Not even eliminate, just reduced it more, hard capped it more stringently, what that would do to the biggest investment most people make in their lives? It's fun to be having that conversation in Florida as opposed to the conversations you're having in Illinois, isn't it? Miles in the Western Burbs.
Hey, Dan, I'm just wondering if we got Trump, if Republicans have Trump, the House and the Senate, and in the first term he had control, why haven't we ever had a federal law requiring sanctuary states to honor ICE detainers so that we don't have to have ICE go out into the neighborhood? Do the Republicans really want to lose this thing, or they don't have a stomach in the fight for what people voted for?
Well, I think Republicans, most places have the stomach for the fight. Certainly, they do at the federal level, and they certainly do in the red states. And I think Republicans do. The Republican Party does largely, even in blue states like Illinois. I mean, but the federal law. I mean, the problem you have is this line where you do not have to proactively collaborate with federal law enforcement with respect to the enforcement of federal law. You can't impede, but you are not compelled to collaborate. And
why can't they?
Go ahead.
Why can't they serve federal subpoenas or federal, subpoenas on the people through the jails, and have the state required to comply with the state agencies, Cook County and the rest of them, comply with the federal subpoena that was served on them? Where the people are captive and
the detainers you're talking about, yeah.
Or a new subpoena process, rather than just the detainers.
Well, I mean, thanks for the call. I mean, I don't know. You wouldn't be subpoenaing an inmate in a state jail. I don't know what a subpoena. I mean, or the jailer or the law enforcement agency. Subpoena, a specific federal order to comply. I mean, it would be more like a writ of mandamus. But I think the problem is you have case precedents on this with respect to being compelled to collaborate. And, yeah, I mean, I think you'd have to get clarity from, frankly, the Supreme Court on something like that to be able to unwind these sanctuary state and sanctuary city jurisdictions. It'll actually be interesting if Trump does go through on that February 1 with holding back federal support for state programs that are for sanctuary states, because that will certainly be litigated, and maybe that will be a moment that begins to provide more specificity in terms of where the lines are. So stay tuned. John in Bridgeport.
Hey, Dan. Real quick, I had a family member come out of state to visit, and she asked the question, why do people around here hate Pritzker so much? And it got me thinking, what are your top 3 or 4 reasons why Pritzker should just get the hell out of office?
Oh, my goodness. Top 3 reasons for...
Yeah, yes, please. Just put them down.
Safety Act, sanctuary state, tax increases and profligate spending that have Illinois in the bottom 5 in quality of life and financial stability in almost every metric, which has been the case for some time, and he's only exacerbated, and he would have exacerbated it more had his proposal to graduate the state income tax been supported by the voters, which it was rejected.
Perfect. The thing is, he's trying to make a run for this thing.
And mob economy, abortion mills, gambling halls, weed. If some of the neo-Marxists in Springfield had their way, prostitution. I mean, this is he has destroyed the quality of life, further destroyed the quality of life in Illinois across almost every metric and across all of the mediated institutions in terms of their performance, starting with government schools, and his opposition to his elimination of the opportunity tax credit scholarship, and his opposition, his unwillingness to fold in and take advantage of the Trump opportunity scholarship tax credit. So there's a handful right there, but it's all quality of life. That's the big question, isn't it? Ask yourself, in the last 8 years, is the quality of life in Illinois for you improved, or has it declined when you think about your physical security, your economic security, and generally speaking, the track that Illinois is on? And if it hasn't been a positive, then I don't know how you support reelecting this guy for a 3rd term. Thanks, John. All right, Poet Laureate Joe from Arlington Heights, Chicago's Morning Answers Poet Laureate. Joe, go.
Good morning. Minnesota Blindness by Joe from Arlington Heights. Are tax dollars sent to entitlement crooks, fake schools without kids or books, feeding imaginary children in need, past investigations the governor did not heed? Transportation services filled pockets with cash. Will the fraudsters be identified at last? Health insurance also ripe for abuse, while criminals claim racist lies as their excuse. The land of 10,000 lakes with liberal leaders on the take always stoke identitarian rage, using spoiled adults who can't act their age. Marxists and illegals riot as political action. Idiot followers march and create a distraction. Insurrection and hate now rule the day. Anarchy perhaps just one more uprising away. It's moral blindness undermining our culture. Without God's truth, the future looks dire. Worshipping the state is the liberal religion. Is this communism's end or just its beginning?
Very
and that's
good, Joe.
Minnesota Blindness.
Minnesota blindness, Joe, our poet laureate from Arlington Heights. Joe, thank you so much. Joe from Arlington Heights, our poet laureate, it's better said. Well done, as usual. Yeah, send that to me, Joe, so we can post that. I got to get this in because we got the big game Sunday night. 40 years ago this week, Bears-Rams.
The NFC Championship game would be waged in the cold by polar opposites.
Well, I told the team, I said, they're the Smiths. They live out there in California. They're the rich people. They have all this Hollywood stuff. I said, we're the Grabowskis. We're the working class. I said, we're the guys that take the lunch bucket to work. You know, the wives make the sandwiches. We come home. You know, and I said, it's going to be that. It's going to be them against us in that manner.
Why don't they put a dome over this place?
One thing, kick ass, let everything hang out.
And that was Sweetness, and it was a brutally cold day, and it portends to be again on Sunday. There was a great riff, too, there from Singletary about the statement tackle he made on Dickerson early in that game that really set the tone for that game, and, of course, the Bears shot out the Rams. I don't think we got an 85 defense here, so I don't think that's going to be a shutout, but, you know, stopping Stafford and Nacua instead of Dickerson is going to be the order of the day on Sunday. Fun to hear from them again, though. Kevin, Las Vegas.
Hey, Dan, I'll try to be quick here. I know you're running out of time. You've been talking about a lot of that, often about that Ford having 5,000 jobs, paying $125,000 a year, but I think it's missing quite a bit of context. Full disclosure, not a mechanic. I'm in an adjacent industry, though. I'm a collision repair guy for 20-plus years. I work at Tesla out here, and you probably saw my shop on the news. It was the one that got hit with a few Molotov, mostly peaceful Molotov cocktails. Yeah, that was my shop.
Wow.
So you had a great segment on this a few months ago. You took a bunch of callers and a texter. The texter really got to me, though. He said tools are insanely expensive, and he's true, and he's right. And he said book times are terrible. And you had a question about what book times are. I'll get to that in a second here. Tools, I mean, you can easily spend $100,000 on tools, minimum, if you're a master mechanic. If tools are included in this $125K, you're making less. I mean, if tools are included in your job, you're not making that. You can easily make that, but you work commission. And no mechanic that I know does. It's not like $125,000 is base pay or anything like that. Book times are what specific jobs pay. Like, let's say.
Well, Kevin, I'm going to have to leave it there. Sorry, Kevin, because we're running out of time, as you said, and I got to close it out with our friend Chuck and Delavan. Chuck, make it quick.
Hey, they got 3 new gambling machines at Whiskey Ranch right across the street from the strip club, and they're paying pretty good money. So everybody head up here in Darien, Wisconsin.
Thank you, Chuck. To round it out, thanks to everybody who chimed in. Appreciate it. It's now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
From opposition leader to elected leader, I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
I believe I will be elected when the right time comes as president of Venezuela.
That's what Maria Corina Machado predicts, telling Fox's Rachel Campos Duffy after